were hanging out with some people. What is it? We were talking about the new graphics cards that NVIDIA announced, which is the TI series, right? For the 30 or the 3000.
3070 and 3080 Ti.
Yeah, which are comparable to a 390. Better, worse.
3080 Ti is like a smidge worse than a 3090, but not as nearly as big.
Okay.
And price is weird, but it's a little bit less pricey.
Because naturally this led into a discussion regarding the situation around scalping and reselling. And because since
fun game.
nobody could get their hands on even the old one.
Keep talking, because the 3080 Ti came out, and I have yet to do my eBay check for it.
Yeah.
So let me do that live on the air.
People literally staking out Best Buy.
Yeah.
From the moment it was announced.
I should say to date this recording a little bit, the 3080 Ti is out. The 3070 Ti is not out. 3070 Ti comes out next Friday.
When did they reveal this? Like formally?
Like
officially?
week ago.
A week ago?
End of May.
So wait, they kept it under wraps to stop people from scalping?
Maybe. I mean, it's not going to work. I mean, that's sort of what we were joking about. Naturally, we were talking about, you're seeing the same thing with shoes and everything related to technology, gaming, tickets for shit. And it blew my mind. My car went up in value since I bought it 5 years ago.
Used cars are through the roof.
Has that ever happened before?
What?
Yes.
That's wild.
Like, what the fuck? What are we doing as a society? I knew the housing market is one thing, but like...
So like the whole post-COVID pandemic, it's so weird because all of
these...
Just
desperate for anything
I've been doing for like my job, I think I sent you a Snapchat the other day of like the boring part of my job, right? Which is just these dense, thick fucking PowerPoints that read like textbooks more than anything.
Yeah.
And it's basically like all people have been saying is like during COVID, people spent frivolously. Out of COVID, people have accelerated their spending. Where are they getting all this money from? Are people just driving themselves into that much debt post-COVID?
Well, I don't know who's actually buying these. I don't think it's...
It's a combination of a couple of factors, from what I understand.
Because the stimuluses weren't much, and they were just helping with things like rent and food. And
this is going to be very capitalist, but give me a second.
Okay.
You categorize people into multiple categories when you're talking about the stimulus. The stimulus was not to save poor people from dying. That was part of it.
Yes.
Right.
But it was also to give people money
to put back
into the economy, right?
You were supposed to use it.
You have a rate. Like whenever you spend $1, it generates more money in the pipeline down further along.
Which is funny when they like removed more wealthier people from...
Well, yeah, but so that's the interesting thing for the last stimuluses,
because it's a bailout.
They removed more people up in the upper echelons, which makes sense. However,
it does.
You categorize people who
would be the likeliest to spend it.
Yeah, you categorize people who got the stimulus into a couple of different categories. You categorize it into poor unemployed who used it immediately to pay bills.
Me?
Yes. You categorized it into paycheck to paycheck people who were living paycheck to paycheck, but used that to live it up a little, pay off some debt, blah, blah, blah.
Actually, that's probably more me.
Yeah, you categorize it to people who like have a good job and saw that as a little bit of extra spending money, me. And then you see that, and then you see the people who like, it's a drop in the pan, and that's kind of the people that they eliminated. So when you eliminate those people, what you're left with is people who have money. Because also, the unemployed were getting boosted unemployment in most states.
Yeah, I was collecting
So you have people who have money, but don't have enough money to, like, move up into that upper echelon, but they want the money to move up into that upper echelon.
Yeah.
And so the tragic part of this is that every industry that involves reselling got a boost.
Yes.
Because you know what else went up in price? Like stuff that I'm in, like guitar pedals. I stopped buying guitar pedals because they're fucking through the roof too. People are selling pedals that used to be $200 for $3 or $4 now because companies can't make them fast enough and they're selling out. And the tragic part of this is that a lot of people are looking to the reseller market to be like, if I'm online, I'm unemployed or I'm working from home. If I'm online at the right time, I can get a 3080 or I can get a PlayStation 5 and I can turn that 500 into 800. I saw a stat
and
early,
people are doing are
I saw a stat earlier today. People invested in Ponzi schemes and multi-level marketing schemes hit a 10-year high.
Wow.
That
earlier
makes
this
so
year.
much sense.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm.
That also explains the collectibles market.
Yeah, collectibles,
Yeah.
Pokemon cards, video games.
I associated that with like, well, everyone is also like trapped inside and sad and nostalgic and.
Well, yes, these markets wouldn't get a boost
I'm sure
if there
there's a
weren't
psychological like.
So these markets wouldn't get a boost if there weren't people to buy.
Of course.
Right?
Yeah.
So there are people who have the money, whether it's because there are a lot more poor people after COVID, but there are also a lot more wealthy people.
This is all one
And there
person,
are a
right?
lot
Hoarding
of-
all the GameCube games and Pokemon
There are
cards.
a lot of people who are somewhat wealthy now due to things like the GameStop squeeze or like the Dogecoin shit or Bitcoin and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So like there are people who have more money now to pay into these markets.
Also, the crypto
Yeah.
angle plays a role in the video card
exactly.
thing
Yes.
as well.
So we're gonna play a little game.
NFTs.
So it is now,
Thankfully,
for those of you
fucking
listening,
dying.
it is now Sunday, June 6th. The 3080 Ti came out on
Happy D-Day.
Friday. Yes, happy D-Day. Came out on Friday, June 4th.
Oh, and happy birthday, Tetris.
Yes, happy
Alright.
birthday, Tetris. Check
Big
out our
shout out
Tetris.
to our friend Denny. Happy
Yeah.
birthday.
Yeah.
Yeah. Who reminded me of.
Okay, so
check out that series.
for those of you that are unaware, we're going to go through the whole line.
All right.
3060, $329 retail. 3060 Ti, $400 retail.
Mhm.
3070, $500. 3070 Ti, $600. 3080, $700.
These sound so affordable when you.
3080 Ti, $1,200.
Yeah.
3090, $1,500. Okay?
Yeah.
There's your regular values.
Got
So
it.
we're going to play a little bit of game. I don't know why I told you all of them, but it might help later with clues. So we're going to play a little game called Price is Right Rules. Guess what the 3080 Ti is selling for on eBay? And these are sold listings. These are not people
Really?
trying to get a lot.
Okay,
Yes.
this isn't a Disney VHS situation.
Austin,
No.
what's a retail, Austin?
1,200.
Okay. Thanks,
12
Bob.
I should
Thanks,
say-
Bob. I appreciate that one. Okay.
I say 1,200 for the Founders Edition from NVIDIA because the third-party ones are anywhere between 13 and 15.
I'm gonna double it and say 2,400.
Okay.
I'm gonna have to go with 1850, Austin.
Okay.
You're
So
probably right.
we're gonna go to a round 2.
Yep.
Randy lost because it is closest without going over.
And it's
So-
$21.99.
The closest answer is 1850. Guess again. Here's your hint for round 2. The 3080 is around $700. Those were about $1,400 on the reseller market.
Okay.
See, that was
So
almost
not quite double.
not quite, but
Okay.
I'm gonna have to go with
2,500.
that's higher than your you said
You were too high
No,
last time.
sorry, 2,050. That's what I meant to say.
Oh,
2050.
That's what I meant
okay.
to say.
I'm gonna have to go with 2051, Austin.
All right. Chris is right again.
Give me that.
We're going to go for one more round and see if one of you can get it on the dot.
Okay.
Because I'm averaging a couple of these, but
2080.
I see what you did there.
Thank you.
I see what he did here. I'm gonna
He's just
have
going
to
to do
say.
2081.
yeah.
Say
No.
2080 Ti, it'll be funny.
Oh, yeah, I'm gonna have to go 2080 Ti. I'm gonna have to say 2108.69.
All right, Chris is closest.
Fuck this game.
What was
We're looking at about 2150.
solid?
Man.
I see a listing here that sold for 2,500. I see a listing that sold for 2,000. And I see a bunch of listings that sold for around 21 to 2,200.
All right, so
that's
wait.
my average.
Your best guess, do you think this is going to go up or down?
Down.
Hopefully.
It's gotta.
Here's a Asus NVIDIA GeForce RTX 3080 Ti ROG Strix
I mean, they can't-
overclocked, $3,200.
Jesus.
I
I mean, they can't produce enough of the.
mhm.
Like, Who is
The other suit.
spending $3,200 on a graphics card?
Twitch streamers.
Miners.
Like
Miners.
Twitch streamers, I understand. If you're gonna try mine, I mean that's fool's gold anyway. So you're just dumb as shit.
Yeah.
But like
Miners a little bit less so because you're cutting into your profits paying overpaid prices. Like,
Yes.
True. Yeah.
that's what I love about people who mine. They don't ever factor in the cost of electricity or the cost of their overhead or the depreciation of their assets. that they
Electricity
invested
for
into.
sure.
Dude, they're like, dude, I mine like 1/50th thousand
aren't-
of a Bitcoin,
Aren't there like
and you're like, oh,
I guess like people who rent properties out now like have a
Yes.
clause about
if you're gonna mine Bitcoin, you got to do it right. And no one is buying server stacks and server racks and just
Yeah.
hooking up fucking graphics cards to mine. Everyone's like, I'm gonna mine on my own computer to make a little side cache, and then they melt their computer and they're like, what do?
I will say I don't know a prediction. God, I hope it goes down.
mm-hmm.
But the 3080 has gone up by about $300 or $400. So it's now not 14, it's 1700 now.
You know what?
So these might go up.
You know what? I hope, because you know the people who are making these cards, they have to be literally the geniuses of the industry. I'm not talking about like using these cards. The people who design them, architect them, make them. I would
Oh, yeah.
love if they put a hidden backdoor in there that somehow detected that you were using the processing cycle to mine Bitcoin, and it immediately just self-destructed.
Okay, so they didn't do that, but they did cut the hash cycle.
Oh.
So here's the problem, though. Every coin has a different mining algorithm.
Yeah.
So you have to cut the hash cycle for every coin. So NVIDIA did the math. Bitcoin is no longer profitable to mine.
Yeah, everyone's mining like Ethereum or
Ethereum.
altcoins,
Yeah.
So specifically the hash tables for Ethereum have been cut. Which what people then did was A, cracked the firmware, because you
Yep.
can flash the card and upload your own firmware.
Yeah.
And B, mine Litecoin or some shit. So all they're doing is lowering the price of Ethereum and raising the price of other coins. Did you see Cummies trended on Twitter the other day?
What?
Excuse me?
There's a Cum coin. Sorry for the kids out there listening. There's a Cum coin that was started by the adult entertainment industry, and
They're called Kumis?
they're called Cummies.
Cumies would have been way better.
Kumis would have been better.
Cummies would have been better. They're called Cummies, and Elon Musk tweeted
I-
something a little bit cryptically sexual and
I-
boosted the price of that
Stop.
coin by like 30
Just stop.
cents.
Let's
Nope.
not talk about
I'm-
Elon Musk.
I'm good.
Let's not talk about Elon
What
Musk.
is up, listeners?
Yes.
We are back with part 2 of our docu-series on Billy the Mitch, professional gamer, restaurateur, and beacon of lawsuits. This is Hot Button. I am Randall Beatrice. Those voices you hear again are Austin Blakesley
Hello.
and Chris Nudeboom.
Hello.
Last time, Chris ran us through the history as well as many obstacles of the Twin Galaxies organization, most known for their contributions to overseeing and cataloging various video game-related competitions and world records, a group that Mitchell was also a close part of. Today is all going to be about the man himself, the ups, the downs, and the in-betweens. The only question now is, where do we start?
All right. So, who is Billy Mitchell? Right? Billy Mitchell's early childhood and subsequent...
Webster's dictionary
describes Billy Mitchell as... Mitchell's early childhood and subsequent early teenage years, they were actually nothing too spectacular, right? He was born in Massachusetts. He moved to Florida at an early age, and he became an avid lover of pinball early on.
Hey.
I love pinball.
No, pinball's awesome.
And this was during the golden age of arcades, where they kind of began sprouting up and they were attracting kids in droves. And he describes himself as a very competitive player and always wanting to win. Eventually, this passion for pinball turned into a love for Pac-Man and Donkey Kong, where he soon developed a rivalry with a high school friend. They would push each other's scores up constantly until finally reaching a peak. He then started calling arcades to see what their high scores were, and someone eventually pointed him to Twin Galaxies out in Ottumwa, Iowa. And this is where the pages of the story become well-worn, and I place most emphasis on researching. Outside of his video game career, his family owns a restaurant in Florida, Ricky's, where he devoted most of his time outside of the limelight. They were the second restaurant in Florida to ever serve buffalo-style wings in a time where it was more a regional specialty than a mainstream appetizer.
No shit.
Yeah.
All right.
They also sell their own hot sauce, aptly named Ricky's World Famous Louisiana Hot Sauce.
Yes.
Which we have some here on the set today.
We do.
And from all of the reviews that didn't include the mention of the King of Kong scandal, everyone basically unanimously agreed it's really fucking good.
Which me and Chris are behind. It's
Yes.
very good.
Yeah.
And so, before you get into the rest of your script,
We're
we're
trying this
doing a
out?
live taste test. Now, I will warn listeners, Randy is going to pour this on a tortilla chip
Yes.
and give us his review. But if you're sensitive to people chomping,
I mean, I could AMR this shit if you want.
he's going to ASMR a little bit of eating tortilla chips.
It smells
So,
good.
Dude, you could douse. It's
Yeah?
good.
It's good. It's like
It's good.
Frank's.
You
Yeah.
compared it to Frank's, yeah.
Yeah.
It's like Frank's if it wasn't mass produced.
Yeah.
Zero calories, just the way I like it.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's see.
Yeah, you see that look?
Yep.
I mean, no one listening could see it, but
That's fucking good.
I
Yeah.
know
That is like a better Frank's.
Yeah.
it is. It is.
Wow.
Really good. Very good.
Damn. All right.
Like I could douse that shit on everything.
That's like just the right amount of kick and flavor too. Like,
Mhm.
all right.
So
All
there's,
right,
your, there's your live review of Ricky's world famous Louisiana hot
Yeah.
sauce.
You gotta do it in the
That's
style
a strong
of-
recommend.
You gotta-
Louisiana hot sauce from Florida.
All right,
You got to
hold
do it
on.
in the style of the New Yorker. You know, you're like, I feel nodes of champagne, red pepper, aged leather.
Yeah, you can taste the barrel it was aged.
Yes, yeah. With overnotes of spice and
Man.
undernotes of
Yeah,
happiness.
it's not like too smoky or anything. That's
Yeah.
fucking good.
Great.
It's really fucking good.
Yeah.
Like it's such a shame
I'm
that
glad you were able to find this. It was tough,
Matt bought it,
tough to get
actually.
for a
Yeah.
little while. Yeah, Matt got it.
Mm-hmm.
they do limited runs on Amazon, and that's where we picked it up. And there was
Okay.
like I think when we bought it, there was 3 left.
And were there people that like
Yeah.
bombed the
Yeah,
that
yeah.
review on the Amazon
Like
page?
one of the reviews literally was 1 star and was like, can't believe this hot sauce is owned by a cheater, but it's really fucking good.
Yeah.
And you're like,
Okay.
really?
Why does that have to?
What does that have to do like with his hot sauce at all?
I'm surprised they can't pull like irrelevant kind of like
Regardless of his character,
yeah.
He makes really good hot sauce.
button endorsement.
Yeah,
no,
I- like,
The
absolutely.
hot button seal of approval on Ricky's world famous Louisiana hot sauce.
There's a lot of shit that
Delicious.
comes out of Florida. Bath salts, The Adventures of Florida Man. But like if I ever go to Florida, I'm going to Ricky's.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'm getting their wings.
I bet it's probably a fine establishment.
yeah.
Yeah. Florida gave the world 3 things: Miami Vice, Disney World, and Ricky's.
And Ricky's.
Yeah.
But
All right. This tastes better than Disney World, I think.
All right,
So-
you gotta stop eating.
All right.
yeah.
Oh, I
Right.
like Disney World. I don't know why.
Just
I said that.
drink the
I love
hot
Disney
sauce.
World.
Now we're going to move on to a little bit more about the King of Kong, right? Even like prior to the King of Kong, no one really had any fucking idea who Billy Mitchell was.
Yeah, I think we mentioned it last week that was the first time
Yes.
that I at least
Oh
became
yeah, no,
aware
I
of
had
him.
no idea who he
Yeah.
was.
It was only after the 2007 documentary, The King of Kong, that people really started to associate him as a public figure.
Yeah.
Mitchell has repeatedly referred to the movie as a work of fiction, stating that elements were deceptively edited or outright staged in service of establishing a narrative with a clear hero and villain.
Yes. Even my memory of that movie still serves true.
Yeah,
Not a knock against the quality of it, but it is
If
framed that way.
yeah, we said this before. We were gonna do a commentary on it.
Yes. And I'm very excited to revisit with this new
Yes,
information.
I have not
like-
seen it since it came out.
Same.
The reason I said this last week, but in case you forgot, the reason we're doing this after is so that we all have this context
Yes.
while watching it.
Yeah.
But it is like, even before recording these episodes or reading your script, it is very obvious who they want to be the villain.
Absolutely.
It is very, very obvious. Like
And it
he's
was-
not. That's not a ridiculous claim on Billy's part.
Yeah.
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 And it was also kind of easy to write that
Oh, yeah.
story out of their personas.
It's an underdog story.
Yeah.
This claim
You
was
know, that's what documentaries need as a fucking
a villain.
an arc.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
like
And this claim was backed up by many of the people who were in the film or knew its subjects, including those who ended up questioning Mitchell's scores later on. Many agreed that aspects of The King of Kong were heavily exaggerated and misleading. However, the jury was split on whether the film accurately portrayed the personalities of those involved.
Okay.
Some of the more egregious examples include when Billy answers the phone by saying "World Record Headquarters," which he claims was staged, or that he walks in on Weeby playing and then they edited it to only show him staring icily and leaving without a word.
Oh, that's kind of...
Mhm.
Yep.
I remember that part, yeah.
And the worst part being the 2005 Fun Spot where Weeby and Mitchell were to play in person, but instead he sends a previously recorded tape that they set up and put on a TV, and all the attendees watch how he smashes through the 1,000,000-point milestone.
Wow.
The tape itself, dubbed the King of Kong tape, was one of the 2 performances Twin Galaxies eventually cited as grounds for its decision to remove all of Billy's records during its 2017 investigation.
Wow.
Yeah. The tape that they used in the film was the same tape that they used as evidence as to remove his scores later on, which we will definitely get more into.
That's interesting, though.
Because, yeah, it has to do with, like, I have a theory about how it went down, which I will definitely get into.
Yeah, I'm curious.
But there were other tapes as well. One was dubbed the Mortgage Brokers tape. It took place in Orlando at a Florida Association of Mortgage Brokers in July of 2007. For this attempt, Billy sought to make the score unimpeachable by sending the Donkey Kong circuit board to Nintendo for verification and then having a local GameStop manager install and lock it in the cabinet before he ever arrived at the venue.
Which I find hilarious, because if you've been to a GameStop, those people don't know how arcade machines work.
Yeah.
No.
It's the most knowledgeable GameStop manager.
Yeah, no offense to GameStop managers who may be listening, but I can't fucking do it. You're dealing with PCBs and shit. Like, being a GameStop manager does not qualify you to solder circuit
It's an
boards and
outdated
shit.
art, but I mean, sending it off to Nintendo was also who do you think's on staff?
I actually found the guy they sent it to. Yeah.
Wait, really?
Yeah. He was
amazing.
He was a Nintendo of America.
He must
employee.
have been an alumni there for a while. Like,
he passed away in 2012.
Oh.
He worked for Nintendo as an engineer for 30 years.
Shit.
This guy was official.
Awesome.
Yeah, I tried to find who it was, and while going through some of the court proceedings, I found the guy's name. I looked him up, and I sadly found his obituary. But this guy was just a god. Like,
cool.
It's just the coolest dude.
I know, because it's just, I mean, like, companies of that size, everything is so corporatized. I can't imagine that arriving in the mail and just feel like
he obviously did something that was
who do
like
we
more.
Have here?
It's like the guy who like works.
Payrolled it.
He's doing modern stuff, right? He's like engineering the circuit boards for like the games and the chips. But then on the side, they're like, "Oh, can you verify this Donkey Kong board?" And he's like, "Yeah, hold on."
He's like, absolutely.
And he just like runs the bus architecture and fucking like he's like, "Yeah, this is official."
Sick.
Like you're just like, dude. Like, is this what you do on the side? He's like, yeah, sometimes.
Yeah, that's amazing.
And this Mortgage Brokers tape was.
Hey, totally, I can do that. Whatever.
Another one. There was a third one, and the reason for their investigation, that like ever began, and it was dubbed the Boomers tape, and took place in 2010 at Boomers in Dania, Florida.
Okay, thank you. I was like, why is this called the Boomers tape?
Yeah. It took place at an arcade that was previously Billy's childhood arcade. It was called Grand Prix Race-O-Rama. In honor of...
I mean, I guess they are boomers, but...
Yeah. Let's not go there. Right? In honor of the opening of the International Video Game Hall of Fame, Billy set 2 records that day in both Donkey Kong and Donkey Kong Jr.
Or it would have been Gen Xers. I don't know. Wait, Donkey Kong Jr. or Donkey Kong Jr. Math?
Oh. There's no arcade version of Donkey Kong Jr. Math.
No, I
wish there was.
Yeah, I think you're right.
So,
Donkey Kong Jr., the one where Mario's the bad guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, the one.
Right? Or no, yeah, that is right. What's the one where
I was just making a joke about how Mario's the bad guy
in
all of them? Is that
what did Bowser ever do to him?
Yeah.
Because there's the guy with the little spray can, and I don't remember if that's
Steve.
Is his name Steve?
That is Donkey Kong Jr., isn't it?
Where's the one you actually play as Donkey Kong Jr. freeing Donkey Kong from Mario? Is that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
also, none of this matters, by the way.
If it's up to date, original Donkey Kong from Donkey Kong is actually Cranky Kong.
Well, that's true. In the lineage,
yes.
Yeah. That is correct.
So was Donkey Kong Jr. back then Donkey Kong now?
No, then he's just Donkey Kong now. Then it means you play as
Donkey Kong.
Fuck.
Unless you play as Candy Kong.
Donkey Kong 3, you played as Stanley the Exterminator.
Stanley the Exterminator. Okay.
Yeah.
That's it.
Wait, you're exterminating monkeys?
Mhm. Yeah.
You're not an exterminator. You're a murderer.
Oh, sorry. This is all like irrelevant. This
Yeah,
is
it's so
completely
irrelevant.
derailed. Like, you're
But okay. So this Boomers
just trying
tape,
to paint an image for everyone.
this Boomers tape was the start of everything that eventually unfolded.
Uh-huh.
And we want to fast forward to August of 2017, where a moderator of the Donkey Kong forums, Jeremy Young, who was the person who actually came out and kind of calculated like the maximum possible score that was out there for a Donkey Kong.
Yeah, we mentioned that in the last episode.
Yeah.
Yeah, he wrote a 538 article, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I love that website.
Yep.
And he wanted to draw the community's attention to a strange YouTube video ostensibly recorded the same day of the Boomers tape and was uploaded to a YouTube channel belonging to a Robert Childs, a longtime friend of Billy Mitchell's. It showed Childs swapping out the boards containing each game between the attempts so Billy could play both games on a single cabinet.
Oh, word. Okay, so it's just like hit the.
Yep, it
the
was like,
switch
hey,
and-
he just broke the record. Like, we're swapping
Convenient.
out the boards.
Yeah.
However, it was quickly noted that the video only showed a single board of Donkey Kong Jr. being taken out and then reinstalled, with the camera quickly panning away in between to clearly disguise the fact that it was the same board.
Mm-hmm.
And using some technical analysis of the boards, the position of the switches, and the fact that, it was an identical fucking board, it quickly raised fear in the community. In a tactic that Jeremy must have learned from Microsoft, instilling fear, uncertainty, and doubt into anything is a powerful tool to get the ball rolling.
And it is.
So Billy and Bob eventually admitted that the video was staged, but claimed it was created purely to help Childs boost his channel, and that it was recorded at the end of the day, long after the records had already been broken. So they kind of did this like, oh, we're doing
Just
it
like a publicity.
yeah,
stunt,
like a
kinda?
publicity stunt, but people take that like very, very seriously, right?
Yeah.
And this continued into February of 2018, where Jeremy Young relayed new findings on Billy's scores that alleged that all three tapes were played on non-authentic hardware using MAME, or multi-arcade
Yes.
machine emulator.
And man, word of this just spread like wildfire.
Yes. So what is MAME? Would anybody like to take a shot?
I mean, it's an arcade emulator essentially.
So
right?
yeah, so some of you out there listening might be familiar with MAME.
I mean, you guys literally spent the last like year building a cabinet. So
Yeah.
I think you're probably more prepared than me to.
Most listeners are probably familiar with what an emulator is.
Mm-hmm.
So the non-technical, shorter explanation of what an emulator is basically you are, through programming, creating an executable that can simulate the internal hardware, the memory bus, all that shit,
Mm-hmm.
CPU, GPU, sound chips of a console, and that console, basically, you digitize the internal chip into a ROM of a game, and then that ROM is digitally inserted into the slot, and then the code, a bunch of magic happens behind the scenes that simulates the hardware of a console and gets that game to run as close to original as possible.
It's not
But
one-to-one.
It's never one-to-one.
Yeah.
MAME is a different beast entirely, because MAME, as Chris said, it stands for Multiple Arcade Machine Emulator. So every arcade machine out there, for the most part, some companies will do a lot of different games on one board, like Capcom, like Street Fighter and Marvel vs. Capcom running off of the same board. But it is essentially a framework which allows you to load in another emulator that simulates the board, and you also have to load in a BIOS for that board, and you also have to load in separate BIOSes for sound, and it is crazy. But essentially, it is a framework which allows you to emulate any arcade machine on the market.
And it's the best and most accessible option than
Yes.
figuring out the logistics of how to
And
fucking,
way
like-
cheaper than buying original hardware, especially for shit like Donkey Kong, which isn't made anymore.
Yeah.
for sure.
Would an apt example be like, say I drive a Toyota Camry, right? But I want to drive a Ferrari. It would be like tricking my car. Like, you think about it, like when you hit the acceleration, right, you get a certain amount of RPMs, your brake feels some way, your turning feels another way, even your AC feels a certain way in a certain car. It would be like tricking my car into giving me like the acceleration, the braking, and the turning of a Ferrari, but underneath the hood, it would still be a Toyota Camry.
Yeah, it's
engine.
like, imagine you had a
I
blank.
like that metaphor, actually.
Yeah,
yeah.
imagine you had a blank car frame that just didn't look like any car.
Yeah.
But it was very easy to swap the engine and internals of the car in and out. So it could be like, you could try to drive a Camry, and then you could swap the engine out real quickly for a Honda Civic, swap that engine out real quickly for a Ferrari, swap that out for a BMW. That's what MAME is.
Okay.
That's a good metaphor for it.
And this is important because Twin Galaxies rules require you to play on all genuine hardware, including original boards, because there were other records of people hitting the Pac-Man kill screen, but had done so on MAME and was subsequently turned away from for it.
And these rules were written before even, like, you know, I mean, this was, Twin Galaxies was founded, talked about it last episode.
In the 80s.
Yeah, it's early 80s.
81.
And I mean, even back then, like, they were pretty forward thinking before home computers were ubiquitously a part of the process. But like, I think we discussed last time that there was they were very reliant on like tapes and stuff like that. But I'm sure like the process of making, like, of just guaranteeing this is all 100% what you see, you know.
Yep.
They
like.
So.
Yeah, it's important to denote here, MAME as well has a feature called save states.
Yes.
Right?
I didn't want to jump the gun on it, but
Yeah.
that's pretty much probably the main reason why they don't.
Yes. Yeah, because if you're just recording your footage from MAME,
Exclude it.
you have save states that you can immediately quick load into.
Theoretically giving you a perfect run.
Yes. Yeah. Giving you a perfect run. You'd be able to anticipate everything, a perfect RNG. And from an input perspective...
Because it's luck and fixing mistakes.
Yes.
Like, yeah.
There's a difference between if you splice a run, right? Then you'd be able to tell through audio analysis or video analysis that something's not right because it wouldn't line up perfectly because you would have, like...
The way the
place through
screens
here,
build
yeah,
and...
like the camera angle or like whatever it may be, you could tell. But when you have save state, you're essentially just constantly reloading until you create the perfect run.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, that could be a tough thing, too, to suss out with, like, in terms of your audio and visual, like, bugs. Because if everything is edited together, like...
They can kind of tell now when it comes to save state. And
I'm sure they can.
It's like, it's such an in-depth level of analysis that's required.
It's a lot of extra work.
Yes, it's a ton of extra work.
It should also... an additional thing about MAME is that you are digitizing a bunch of computer values, which, as we all know, are a bunch of bits and bytes, ones and zeros. But if you know enough, you can go into that BIOS, since it's digital and not actual hardware, in the same way that you could technically solder something onto a Donkey Kong board to cheat, you could go into the BIOS and digitally solder something onto the Donkey Kong board to cheat.
Yes.
You could manipulate the RNG, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like for like I think you were saying like for tool assisted runs of Donkey Kong, like it is theoretically possible to get like 2 million points, but like that has to be perfect RNG and everything has to be executed perfectly to the frame input.
Yep.
And, like, you could technically assist yourself in getting closer to there without anybody watching a video being able to tell without hours of analysis.
Yeah.
Because if you wouldn't know what a perfect run was when you were sitting at the cabinet, it's like...
Exactly.
There was actually a recent example of that in the speedrun community that I could talk about later, and it was Minecraft. And it brought about an interesting discussion.
Because that randomly generates its world.
Yes. Yeah. And they brought in statisticians eventually to kind of talk about how lucky is too lucky. And when you're at the point where if you had 100 people playing the game for 1 million years straight, one instance would occur. That is too lucky. Right?
That's funny.
It's like they talk about 1 in a million.
Yeah.
Statistically, no problem. 1 in like one in fucking a Google, too lucky.
Well, I mean, if you allow me to nerd out for 1 second here, I think I might have brought this up on the Tetris episode, but there was a study done like years ago on if you could theoretically play a game of Tetris forever, and like the hypothesis was this was before they did the 7 bag method now, because Tetris is a little bit more calculated in the pieces that you receive, but prior to this, it would just be whatever, whatever one of the 7 pieces was thrown at you. And they found out that because of the S and Z blocks, which you can't clear in one move, that the player would inevitably be doomed to lose. So even if you had a way of playing in perpetuity endlessly, if you weren't factoring in, like, your human health and a battery or whatever the fuck, like, it could take hundreds or thousands of years, but like at some point you would just receive like 50 Z blocks and then the game would end. And I was like, and I thought that was just super interesting because a lot of arcade titles from that era were like designed to like, well, we'll suck a quarter down, the game will get harder, and eventually it'll be too much, but if you're really, really fucking good, then, like, what's the equivalent of the Pac-Man kill screen for Tetris? And it's like, well...
I mean, we talked about fucking Joust, right?
Yep.
56 hours.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Yeah.
There's the human limit is
Yeah.
There's a, to plug Adam Neely's channel.
Oh.
He's a music guy.
Brilliant.
So, but if you're into music theory at all, or
him.
not even if you're... he has a video called... What's the fastest music possible?
Yeah, and he has as slow as possible as well.
He has the slowest one possible, which is another fascinating video, but there is
they're incredibly interesting.
They talk about like the human element, where it's like things have gotten to the point now where humans are starting to get fast enough at playing instruments that there is really no limit to how fast a song
can be.
Yeah.
When that wasn't the case, it was always between these BPM of what we would describe as music, and then it's like...
Yeah, the limit then becomes, at a certain BPM, music just becomes like a beep.
Yeah.
Because you're moving so fast that the frequencies blend
just
together into a single tone. Yeah. It's fascinating stuff.
Oh, man. I'd say we should get back to... Because I was about to make another comment. I know she's going to.
Oh, I'm sorry. I know.
No, you're good. We're good.
This is like the equivalent of like you think we all toked up of this.
Yeah,
like
yo,
this conversation.
You wouldn't believe it. Yeah, that's like. Well, I was going to make a comment about chess.
Acid talk going on.
Chess and AI and bots playing chess. Like people always say like, well, how do you know if you're playing against a bot or not, right? And like the easiest. Deep Blue got fucking robbed. And when they talk about like playing against AI, there's moves that AI do that are just not intuitive to humans whatsoever.
Right.
And that's how they determine it. They're like, oh, like a human would do this, right? We know that we should move this because it provides you this situational advantage. And then a computer like moves aside like an outer pawn one space up because it's anticipating 30 moves down that they're going to block you there. And you're like, humans can't do that. We just don't have the brain power to do that.
Yeah.
Like maybe if we used 100% of our brain.
Yeah, like Limitless.
Yeah.
Which has come up on the show before for some reason. Probably
What
it's a stupid
movie.
fucking movie. But yeah, like the last thing I say about the Tetris thing is it's funny is back then it was like, well, we'll just keep making the pieces drop faster and faster because it's just going to get more and more difficult. But they didn't, they didn't foresee how fucking good people were gonna get.
Yeah. And then eventually they come out with master mode, and then and then
just
before
make
you
them
know
invisible.
it,
Like, come on.
And then before you know it, it's insta gravity.
Yeah,
and now they're insta gravity invisible.
Yeah.
And you got to do it 7 times in a row. Yeah,
the machines are never gonna take over.
never.
Yeah,
We'll always have the edge. Skynet is a farce.
To get back one quick tangent before we get back into the actual episode, but this is more relevant. I found Twin Galaxies does accept MAME.
Yes.
But as a separate category.
Yes.
Like you can have a record for the MAME version and then for
Okay.
the official version. and I found their submission guidelines.
That was smart of them to do that because that allows more people to participate.
There is one meme pack that they accept. I want to say it's like Wolf Meme.
Wolf Meme. Yep.
What makes that more official than...
Wolf Meme is dedicated to precision. So a lot of, like, depending... There are different flavors of meme that are out there, right?
Yeah.
And Wolf Meme is dedicated to they spent a lot of time on each game to make sure the emulation is as close to original as possible, where other people kind of
Take
around.
liberties?
Yes, to make for like performance and stuff like that.
All right.
There's a whole bunch of mumbo jumbo that not even I understand, but I know it has to do with like refresh rates a lot of the times, like how like your input lag.
Yeah, and they have to account for like all the different types of hardware and control inputs
and that's what they
that
do,
people have.
Yeah.
All right, real quick. I'm going to go down this as quickly as possible. All submissions must include video footage as well as an INP file, which is input file, can be played back directly in MAME. Auto fire is not allowed. All MAME submissions are one-shot attempts. If you make a recording, your first attempt is what counts. If present, NVRAM should be deleted before recording, as NVRAM use is disallowed. No submission of any INP files that are not your own. Please make sure you read this correct settings and a correct ROM set for each game. Using incorrect ROM set will result in rejected score. Playback speed must be 100 to 95%. Keyboard mapping is at the discretion of the player, but is on a game-by-game basis. Please make sure that frame skip is set to 0 and draw all frames option is checked. Frame skipping is a rejectable offense. You must go to the service menu for settings. All settings must be changed according to the rules specified in the specific score track you are submitting to.
There's more rules for this than just like
for games that have a BIOS file, such as Neo Geo games, please leave the BIOS settings at default. Show the dip switch settings in Wolf Meme for every video submission.
Yeah, I've seen like the camera, like they'll literally have a camera pointed at the switches. Just
that makes sense.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's interesting that they make you reset your NVRAM.
Yeah.
That's so like some games when you start them up, the RNG, the seeded RNG will be the same if you reset it every single time, which is how games like Wind Waker runs that way.
Yeah.
Because a guy came up with a program. The hardest part of Wind Waker speedrunning, by the way, is the Kasploosh game. Fun fact, because it's random, right?
Yeah.
And you actually have to like do really well, and that took the longest time. A guy found out that Wind Waker, the RNG was seeded at the moment that you turn on the game, and then came up with a program that you entered in your shots, and depending on, you had to reach the Kasploosh game by a certain time, real time, and it would actually map out the RNG and it would tell you the answer. Long story short, yeah, it's fucking crazy. But yeah, they make you reset your NVRAM so that way the RNG is steady across everybody for it. So you can't like play 3 games because, you know, you restart on the 26th frame at 10 minutes and 25 seconds and that is the perfect seed.
Got it.
That's cool.
Okay. Man,
anyway,
that is cool.
Back into it.
it. So, to recap really quickly, because I know we just went off there, Jeremy Young, he kind of made this accusation out there. He cited this YouTube video. People kind of got a little hesitant. And ultimately, Young, he only had one tape that he could actually use as evidence, which was the King of Kong tape. For the Mortgage Brokers and Boomers tapes, Billy had relied on a Twin Galaxies policy that allowed referees to verify any scores they witnessed live. In both cases, the referee was our boy, Todd Rogers, who himself had quite a dubious past. Yeah, you cannot dodge the rod.
Yeah.
So Todd Rogers, who is he? Well, Todd Rogers is an American video game competitor from Brooksville, Florida, who gained fame in the early 1980s for many world record high scores and for his expertise on specifically Activision games. He claims he got his start in 1980 when he broke several scores that Activision published in their quarterly newsletter.
This is the drag racing one, right?
Yeah.
Dragster.
Yeah.
After claiming so many records, he finally showcased his skill 2 years later at the 1982 Consumer Electronics Show to members of Activision. This led Activision to hire Rogers as sort of a mascot since video games were getting a bad reputation back then.
Yeah, and especially that was like right around the time of the crash. And I think we brought it up in part 1 about how like companies wanted a public face.
Yes.
And yeah, like pull people in.
I'm not gonna lie, like I saw some photos of him back then. Like pretty good looking dude.
Okay.
Like good looking dude, nice set of hair. He kind of didn't fit the stereotypical.
Yeah.
Like everyone thought video games were evil. It was turning their kids into delinquents, right? So he didn't fit that description of someone who was failing school or living in a basement.
Yeah.
He had a girlfriend. He was basically their ideal poster boy to market towards parents.
Yeah.
And to market towards gamers.
They were
themselves.
thrilled to show like, hey, you can also have like the successful life.
You can have
and
a
be in
life and
relationship
play video games.
Yeah. Yeah. Which was a concern back then. And by being
Well, especially when the questions of like addiction and stuff.
Yeah.
came up, you know.
And this really opened doors to working in the video game industry with many software publishers and newsprint magazines. And if you ever wanted to know the power of the phrase, it's not about the grades you make, but the hands you shake, look no further. So he credits himself.
That's going to be an official Hot Button shirt.
It's not about the grades you make, but the hands you shake. Nah, it should be overpromise, underdeliver.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he credits the work he received mainly from word of mouth. And this is a quote for him. When Activision was developing into different directions, many of their designers formed their own companies, such as Accolade, Acclaim, Absolute, etc.
Acclaim, previous topic.
So,
Look up what happened to
by working with Activision,
them.
I got to work for those companies as well, since I had a perfect track record of promoting and playing video games for a living.
And a lot of these guys, they were like Atari spinoffs too, so
Yep.
their connections were already there.
Sega, Nintendo, Atari were also
Yes.
along the same lines. Once I got to attend these huge gaming events, I was introduced to many of the luminaries of the industries and head of companies. They conversed and took a liking towards me and utilized my gaming skill and professional approach to help promote their brands. I always watched what kind of contracts that I was bound by as to never cross the line and work with the competitor companies at the same time. So this led to him really being the first person officially endorsed and paid for the sole purpose of video game marketing and skills.
Yeah.
I hesitate to call him the first esports player, seeing as he was hired first and foremost for his ability to represent a brand.
Right, not to compete. It's more...
I
mean...
I wrote here that I'd be comfortable calling him the first video game brand manager, but Austin had a really good point.
Yeah, I said brand ambassador.
That's the
Okay.
best way. It
Yeah.
really
They
is.
still use that term, I think. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Social media
Influencer.
influencers.
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
You ever see the clip of Kanye West talking about Lady Gaga?
No.
Have you ever seen that?
No.
Because at one point, Polaroid was in dire straits, and they got a boost in sales because Lady Gaga started like posting Polaroids to her
she
Instagram
kicked
or
off
whatever.
that? Like...
Because she became brand ambassador for Polaroid. And then there's a famous clip of Kanye West in the studio, and they ask him about it, and he goes, "Look, I like Gaga. I like Gaga's music. The fuck does she know about cameras?" It's such a good clip.
That is really funny.
That is
Who did it first? Lady Gaga or Life is Strange?
Life is Strange. Lady Gaga.
Oh, damn.
Yeah.
So, during his career, Todd amassed an astounding 1,700 plus records in different video games. They range from Frogger to Tapper
1,700?
to Harley Davidson pinball machines.
Oh, pinball machines are included as well, huh?
Yeah.
Okay.
However, the record that signed the checks and got him the jobs with Activision was his Dragster. Released in 1980, Todd posted an impressive 5.1 seconds on a single drag, a record that lasted 34 years and 215 days.
Did anybody ever play Dragster?
Yeah, it kind of sucks.
Yeah,
I
it's
don't
not
remember
great.
thinking it was...
Back then, video games themselves were so one-dimensional,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like nowadays, everyone expects sandbox with RPG skills leveling up. Back then, it was like, you're playing Dragster. What are you doing? You're dragging.
Well,
you're doing the drag.
No,
race.
yeah,
Like,
but still, this is post Space Invaders. That's a game.
Yeah. I like. You mentioned Frogger and Tapper.
Yeah.
Like
Frogger and Tapper are great.
those are more.
Involved.
Yeah, there's more depth to them.
Yeah.
Because Dragster was literally like, how do you drag? You just tap buttons, right?
Yeah.
I think there's probably a little bit
You
more
tap
to it than
you
that,
tap
but-
a button and then you have to like shift.
Yeah.
That's
you
it.
gotta. There's, you have 2 buttons you can press and a joystick.
Like Super
So-
Sprint was like 2 years away.
One is
That's
the top button is gas, I believe, and then the side button is your clutch. So you like gas it, you have to release the gas, hit the clutch, shift up, and then
Yeah.
hit back to the gas. Because if you hit your gas and the clutch at the same time, you
Wait,
fly.
what Mario Party was this minigame in?
Oh, it should be.
It probably is. I
Oh
probably
yeah,
is.
there's a drag racing game
Yeah.
in Mario Party for sure.
So yeah, he really had this record for Dragster, and surprisingly enough, or maybe unsurprisingly, in a move that predated Jeremy Young's allegations against Billy, a speedrunner and task creator named OmniGamer was doing the Lord's work. In May of 2017, a full year before Young made allegations against Billy, this YouTuber, Eric Kozel, aka OmniGamer, disassembled Activision's 1980 game Dragster and created a simulator using Microsoft Excel to show the fastest time possible. Or Google Docs, one of the two.
Yeah.
Right?
I think it was Excel. I don't remember.
It was one of
I
the
do.
two.
Yeah. Recall when the story broke though.
Yeah. He found that the theoretical limit was 5.6446 seconds. This is a bit slower in comparison to Activision's self-published fast time of 5.4 seconds that they cooked up for one of their 80s quarterly newsletters, both of which were slower than Todd's 5.1 that he claimed he got in 1981, to which his proof is that he submitted a Polaroid to Activision at the time and that they verified it.
Where's that Polaroid?
People have tried to
Show us
find
the
it.
receipts.
I mean, I don't know. Where's a photo of you from 2002?
2002?
Randy doesn't like taking pictures.
Yeah, I don't like. I mean,
Prove it.
Feels like they steal his soul.
there's pictures of me out there somewhere, whether I like it or
Isn't
not.
that a plot of an episode of Dilbert?
It's a.
They go to the
I
country.
believe it's an Aborigine belief.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah,
I guess that's in me somewhere.
you're not Australian.
Well, Todd,
I've had Fosters.
They
I've
don't
been to
sell
an Outback.
Fosters. Oh my God, they don't sell Fosters in
But
Australia.
they do. Yeah, it's the Australian beer, ain't it?
Oh my God.
Shrimp on the Barbie.
Can I have some coffee? Beer?
I am B.
E.
I apologize if it's to any of our Australian listeners, which I actually think there might be a couple.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, we know that Outback sucks. It sucks here too.
Yeah.
I really hope they don't have Outback in Australia.
They don't.
Good.
But I know a couple people from
That
Australia
already makes Australia
who
a
have
better
been
country
to
than us.
America and been to an Outback, and it's like all their punny food names are very racist to the natives of Australia.
I bet.
Because it's like walkabout shrimp, and it's like a walkabout is like a religious experience.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
So the only thing I know is what was it, a tucker bag? A tucker bag? This is like a bag for your tucker.
Makes sense.
And the song Waltzing Matilda, which,
Is that by Tame Impala?
no, it's by Slim Dusty, the most Australian sounding name of all time.
Nope, it's Tame Impala. They're Australian.
And if you ever played Civ 6, the song Waltzing Matilda, every single song for Australia is a remix of Waltzing Matilda.
What?
Yeah. Like, I could play it in here, but it's it's like it's really good. You should listen to it. You should
Okay.
listen to
I'll try and send me the link.
Yeah,
I'll try and edit it very lowly under this
please do.
whole conversation about Australia so people can hear it.
So, yeah, Todd Rogers, brand ambassador, 1,700 records, and he got accused by OmniGamer that, basically the time that he was proving that he said that he had through a Polaroid was just not even possible. And Todd was no stranger to
It
speculation.
seemed pretty
either.
questionable.
Very. Over 100 of his records have been called into question over the years, some of which are so ridiculous that they have to be fake.
It took a long time for people to get to that, like, to become suspicious of it.
It took a long period of time, and more like nobody cared.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe. Yeah, now I guess there's probably
It's a-
more of...
It's a
Devotion
combination.
to that now
It's
than
a
then.
combination of people not giving a shit, and also MAME helped a lot. Because once
Yeah.
people have access to that code, they can really analyze it and break it down.
Good point.
You can't sit at an arcade machine and analyze this shit frame by frame.
Yeah. Of those 100 records that have been called into question, 26 of them were Activision games. 9 of those records have since been proven to be impossible. So, for the following games, take a guess at what you think his score was, and then what the second place score was. Centipede for Atari.
I mean, I don't know what. I mean, I've played Centipede.
Would it help you if I gave you the second place score so you could base his off of?
Yeah.
Second place score for Centipede Atari was 58,078 points.
I mean, if it's anything like his Dragster score, it's probably a whole digit higher than that.
65 million.
Dude, if you're gonna cheat, be realistic about it. Like, why? What?
Beam Rider for Atari. Second place score, 3,948.
Wait, which game did you say it was?
Beam Rider.
Fuck is Beam? Did you say a few mil?
999,999.
What? Come on. This is the equivalent of that Simpsons joke with, like, when Bart shows Homer his report card, and Homer goes, a D gets turned into a B so easily. You just got greedy. And it was like the A. And like, it's just like...
So true. Happy Trails for the Intellivision. Second place score, 72,634.
Happy Trails. You know what? Just fucking all nines again, right? Just run your finger along that.
9,999,999.
What an asshole.
Galaga. 616,990.
I mean, I've already played Galaga, and that's impossible.
20
1, 2,
million.
3, 4, 5. Come on.
232,760. The Galaga record of 616,000 took 28 minutes of playing Galaga.
28 minutes.
If you got a score of 20 million, it's estimated that you would have to play 15 plus hours.
Which I'm going to guess he didn't do.
No.
Allegedly, he didn't do it.
Billy's got the tapes, dude. But, so how did this happen? Well, in 1986, after
that's a good
Guinness
question.
associates itself with the U.S. national video game team, Todd Rogers was actually part of that team.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
All right.
So from there, you start to see the same group of people all connected to Walter Day slowly becoming Guinness World Record holders.
That's a shame, though, because it removes credibility from people who are,
Yes.
like, legitimately a part of the scene.
Yeah, it
And-
removes credibility from Billy Mitchell, who's actually, like, good at Donkey Kong.
Yeah.
Right?
No, you're right.
Yeah.
So now you have this guy who is making a career on smashing video games, joining forces with the leading scorekeeper of video game high scores. While everyone else is sending videotapes competing for scores, he was either getting his friends to validate some of his scores,
Big air quotes on that.
Yeah.
validate, and in some of the worst cases, he was just entering his own into the system. And since they allowed private referee verification, he would just, enter the score, write one of his friends as the referee, let him know he got the score and that they could trust him. The old, yeah, I
Really?
just broke the record, bro. I just got 50 million. Oh, good for you, man. Oh, yeah, I already entered the system. Wait, what's the second place? About 3,000?
Yeah, like, I've heard more convincing fucking lies on the playground when you're little. Like, it's... Jeez.
Like, if you think about it, you really need to be semi-decent at a game, and it's believable, right? Like, most of the records happen at
sure.
home, away from crowds, and after many attempts
Yeah,
anyway.
but there's like a running theme. Like, eventually, though, after a while, some eyebrow raising
Like,
would,
my point here is that, like, it's really not that unbelievable or far-fetched to think that someone who at the time was known as being really fucking good at video games
No, that's
to
true.
come out
It's more of the
with some of the most
consistency
ridiculous
to it.
scores and people would believe him, right? Like, he was
Yeah.
touting himself as the top 1% of video game players, so people don't really have a reason to think he's lying. And at the same time, I don't think people really cared. Like, I wrote an
Yeah.
example down.
I mean, if it took this long for everyone to challenge him on it.
Like, if think about it, right? So, like, here's a good example.
Mm-hmm.
Austin, how many people do you think entered Street Fighter V back at EVO in 2019?
It was something like 2,000, because I remember that was like one of the first years Smash beat it, and that was a little over 2,000.
Smash Ultimate or Melee? Oh, I guess that would have been a year after Ultimate.
Yeah,
Yep.
it was Ultimate.
Yeah, it was just around 2,000 people.
Okay.
Mhm.
And do you remember how the tournament ran? Like for Evo.
Pulls.
Yep.
And then there's, a top 32?
Yep.
And then they do double elimination bracket.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So
Which
you
is
have,
what we did for our tournament,
Yep.
right? Yeah.
you have 3 rounds of pools that you have to go through. And then from there, it would get funneled down into a top 32 bracket. And all this was like double elimination,
Yeah.
right? So do you know what would qualify you as being in the top 25% of that tournament? No?
I want to see how long we can.
How long the pause can go? Yeah. That's the part.
People think that
That's
they're...
the part that you put like waltzing Matilda. Yeah. You would
Oh,
have,
no, I got to put Jeopardy music in there.
you would have to make it out of the first round of pools,
Okay.
and you were in the top 25%.
So already we're down to 500 people
Yep.
Out of the 2,000.
out of the 2,000.
Do you know what would qualify you as the top 5%?
No.
This has to be Make a Million, like Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, like the
The hot.
Dun-
No,
dun-
no.
yeah the 64,000 plus. Making it into the losers bracket in round 3 of pools is the top 5%.
So yeah, we're at now. Hold on. 100 people, and we're not even out of pools because it's 32.
Wow. This
Yeah.
will go on for...
Yep.
Now,
Yeah.
can you take a guess at what makes you the top 1%?
I mean, in case you haven't figured it out by now, I'm bad at math.
That's why we're asking you.
Why? Ask
You
Austin.
keep drinking those claws.
It's only one. I'm going to drink this hot sauce, and
Oh, so
that'll
good.
stimulate my brain.
To be the top 1% at Evo, you have to play in the grand finals.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. No, that makes sense.
So if you think about it, right?
Oh,
If-
technically, I think mathematically, it would be like top 4 would be 1%.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Something like that. If you think about it, it's much more believable for you to say to yourself, I can make it out of the first round of pools, no problem, than it is for you to look at and say, I could win this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean,
Right?
that's way more, like, it's
Realistic,
and
right?
easier to digest than looking at 2,000.
So why?
Names and-
So when you look at those people who you think are going to make it to grand finals, right? Who are gonna win it, right? You look at them and you say the skill cap between us is so immense that there's no way I'm going to beat these guys up in bracket. But these people in pools that I don't know, I could crush these guys.
Oh,
the first
can I
round.
use a Street Fighter metaphor?
Yeah.
Okay, it's like this. Imagine if Justin Wong or Daigo Imahara got convicted of cheating and like an online tournament. Like if Daigo somehow rigged his system in order to widen the input windows,
Oh,
would you be able to tell?
no.
Yeah. So like what Chris is trying to say is like Justin Wong would go up to the referee and be like,
He
and I'm-
shaved down
I'm
the
using these
springs.
yeah, I'm using these two because they're the Evo
Mm.
Moment 37 people, which is in one of our microtransactions.
Yes.
Check that out. But like Justin would be like, he's cheating. There's no way he could pull that combo off. But you just have to trust Justin Wong
Got it.
in saying that. We all would, because no matter your level of Street Fighter play, none of us are Daigo. You know.
Yeah.
That's kind of what Chris is saying.
Got it.
Yeah.
So there's a bit of like politics at play here in terms of who you trust and respect to.
No one had any reason to believe that he didn't get
No,
that.
of course, yeah.
It wasn't until people went back, because these games are so rudimentary,
Yeah.
that like they could look through the code and say these weren't possible.
Yeah.
I would also say that the internet helps a lot,
Yeah.
because like when you're not
Well, yeah, think about how big that community was then.
right, but when you're
It's-
not on the internet
Compared
and
to
there's
now.
just one scoreboard in Autumna, Iowa or whatever,
it's just gospel.
it's just gospel. And whereas like, you know, I could go on YouTube and look up Dragster high scores and probably find thousands of videos and watch what really study and analyze what high level Dragster game. Dragster's a bad example because it's a weird game, but like I could look at Pac-Man
It's
play.
relevant,
I
isn't
could look at Pac-Man play for hours and hours and analyze what top level Pac-Man play looks like
Yeah.
and be like, and I could watch 2,500 videos of people playing Pac-Man and be like, they all got around like 1 million points and some of them got close to the kill screen. There's no way somebody could get 2 million. You know what I
Right,
mean?
yeah.
Like you can just like, a regular person now can do the legwork to analyze and be like, that 65 million is not fucking possible. But if you're the dude that got 28,000 or whatever in Centipede and you see the top score is 6 million, you just kind of go, you don't know you're second best in the world. You just kind of go,
I guess I'm not that good.
damn, dude, I guess I'm not that good. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was a great analogy. That's so good. Yeah. But back to the main topic. When it comes to Todd, he was apparently setting records at an alarming pace. Even one of Todd's proteges, a guy by the
And in multiple games, which is...
Yeah, multiple games, multiple genres.
Yeah.
But even one of his proteges, who goes by the name Triforce Johnson, has a Guinness World Record. He started a team called Empire Arcadia in the fighting game community, who had players like Mewtwo King, Armada, Justin Wong, NYC Chris, and even Yipes on their roster at one point. And his team holds the Guinness record for the most winning competitive team with over 2,000 tournament wins. So yeah.
Most of those coming from Justin Wong and Armada.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, all this evidence basically comes out. Todd Rogers just gets fucking fossilized.
Yeah.
Immediately. All of his records are just
They're
stripped.
wiped.
Yeah, they're just stripped by both Guinness and Twin Galaxies, with the latter officially distancing themselves from him entirely. And all this happens in August of 2017, the same month that Jeremy Young originally posted the allegation against Billy with the Boomers tapes. I don't think it's a coincidence.
No, I don't think so either.
Right? Like, if
everyone is paying more attention.
Everyone thinks where there's smoke, there's fire.
Yeah.
And he has an association with them. People are like, okay, let's start taking a look into it.
Which is a bummer for Twin Galaxies as well.
Yeah.
Like,
but at this point, this is really all we need to know about Todd Rogers. He made his career claiming to be some genetic fucking specimen of video games and partnering with video game companies. In order to keep that business flowing, he had to keep being good at the games. So to do that, he made sure that the document showed he was the top of class.
Yep.
And
so it turns out video games do turn you into a degenerate.
You heard it here first, folks.
Oh, man. Someone get Al Gore on the phone.
Yeah.
But back to Billy. So he had these records dubbed the Mortgage Brokers and the Boomers tapes, right? Both of which were cited in his allegations, both of which were verified by Todd Rogers. Any existing footage of the records has either been lost or just non-existent to begin with. And there exists some footage of the Mortgage Brokers, like external footage, but it's not of the gameplay itself. It's basically the equivalent of a passerby filming him playing. And the ongoing meme at the time was like, oh, Todd's got the tapes, bruh. Like alluding to the fact that Todd claimed to have witnessed, documented, and reviewed the high scores.
Yeah.
And for the King of Kong tape, you can see Billy announce that actual record with an actual copy of the tape in a CRT playing next to him. And this is where the true geniuses came in and kind of demolished them. Because by looking at that footage, they actually found the smoking gun. It showed the level transitions.
Yes, that's what I know about it. It's just how the screens build in. Right?
Yeah. There's actually two, like the tape is lost. Like no one really knows where it is right now. It's probably been destroyed or sitting in an archive somewhere. It's passed around so many different hands at this point.
Could be even damaged if found.
But the two
exists.
instances that they pretty much locked up, there was actually a segment on an MTV show where they were talking about Donkey Kong, and it was one of the Twin Galaxies dudes talking about Billy Mitchell's world record, and it had the tape playing on the TV next to him, and then he had this public announcement where he announced that he broke it, and he had it playing next to him there, so they used those two to take a look and kind of dissect what was going on. Yep. And
detectives, dude.
Yeah.
The simplest and most useful way to understand the technical evidence is for us to focus on the two features: the screen orientation and what is known as the three girder pattern.
And
so
you're referring to the construction stage with the...
Yes, the first stage.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So for the screen, many arcade cabinets, they actually use a monitor that's been rotated on its side to display a vertical image.
Yeah.
Right?
Call it Ikaruga style.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. So like
I know it existed long before that, but that's just forever what I associate.
Yeah, I would
with
say
it.
Donkey Kong style or Pac-Man style, but you know.
Yep.
Yeah, Ikaruga.
Ikaruga, sure.
So when you capture this video signal and you play it back on a standard CRT TV or monitor, what appears to be the top of the screen is actually the right side of the arcade screen.
Right.
Right?
Correct.
So It's hard to conceptualize. I know it's
No,
but in
yeah.
Billy's video, the top image is on the left.
Yes.
Yes.
I didn't want to say right.
Right. Yes.
Correct.
The second feature,
Who's on first?
it's exactly like that. The second feature, the 3 girder pattern, requires a bunch more explanation. It refers to how Donkey Kong loads in one of its 4 level types. So for the girder level, think the first level.
Yeah.
All the girders
25M.
25M. Oh, 25 meters. You're right. Yeah. All the girders, they all load in at the same time and on a regular, authentic arcade cabinet. Like they in order on a regular arcade cabinet, they all come in at the same time, right?
Okay.
So for Billy's records, a different pattern occurs where only the top 3 girders are visible in the first frame. And this pattern is visually identical to one produced by some versions of MAME. And for this...
People made that connection right.
When I wrote this script, I originally tried to write an explanation for this as to like try and explain it.
Yeah.
And then we just crossed it out and I wrote, Austin, you should probably explain this about how games use memory addressing and how games pull and write assets to the screen.
Mm-hmm.
So, Austin, if you will, tell us more about memory addressing and how these games pull and write assets to the screen.
Yeah.
I'm all ears.
So basically, when you're drawing a frame on the screen for a video game, everything needs to already be in memory. It needs to be loaded. All the assets that need to be displayed need to be loaded into memory. Then they can be pulled from memory, and then the frame can be drawn. Because in addition to, frames per second, in addition to that, you have frame time.
Right.
So if you've ever played a game, cough, Dark Souls 1, where it runs at 30 frames per second, but still looks like it's stuttering, that's because some frames are taking longer to load than others.
I mean, didn't that game also break when it ran at an unlocked frame rate? Or
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. And that
I think that was Dark Souls 2.
Oh, okay.
Actually, I don't remember.
I couldn't remember.
I can't remember.
I thought it was the PC version of one.
Yeah.
One of these.
But
games.
so basically, in order for everything to display not only at a consistent frame rate, but with the same amount of milliseconds in between each frame, basically everything's in memory. Screen prepares the frame.
Mm-hmm.
So the way CRTs, okay, this is going to be a long explanation. So 1080p, 720p, 480p.
This much I know.
480i. We don't use that anymore. That's a CRT thing.
Maybe we don't.
Progressive scan and interlace.
Famous from the back of GameCube boxes.
P stands for progressive scan. I stands for interlace. So basically, CRTs use interlace. So basically what that means is because the image is moving so quickly, and you'll notice this if you ever watch sports on an interlaced TV, it can get really dicey because they move very quickly.
Okay.
You are not drawing the entire frame. You are drawing half of one frame, and then the other half, you're drawing the odd lines of the first frame and the even lines of the second frame. And then you are displaying them so quickly that it doesn't matter.
You can't tell.
Yeah. Because for the most part, when you're watching a movie, and this was not designed with video games in mind, but old video games too, most of the frame is identical. It's just whatever's moving.
Yeah.
Characters moving across screen.
For sprite work.
Yeah, especially for sprite work. And, as Chris mentioned, most arcade cabinets are a CRT turned sideways. So realistically, not only is it interlacing the picture, but it is loading from top to bottom. As opposed to modern TVs where the whole fucking frame just gets displayed. That's what progressive scan is.
Got it.
Frame A is prepared, frame B is prepared behind it, show frame A, prepare frame C, show frame B, et cetera, et cetera.
And as we were saying, if the playfield is it's vertically oriented on a screen turned.
So a CRT is drawing the picture. If you've ever seen those, if you've ever watched a video recording of a CRT TV, you'll notice those lines going up and down that we can't see.
Yep.
That's because of the way a camera records footage. It is capturing the frames moving up and down. If you pause it frame by frame, you'll see the frames loading in an interlaced pattern from top to bottom. because it's being recorded over Billy's shoulder. So you're seeing the frames from the camera not syncing up with the frames in the game, so they're being drawn, right?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas in MAME, to simulate this, as Chris said, the 3 girder pattern, and I this is all from a video, and I didn't refresh myself, so I apologize if anything I'm saying is incorrect. There's a lot of information to go over.
No,
But basically, it's
good.
not drawing the frame line by line. It is not interlacing the frame. It is just popping the frame on the screen, right? Because it's MAME.
Yeah.
It's doing it on an LCD monitor.
Right.
It can be doing it on a CRT, but MAME is meant to be run on newer monitors and stuff, so it is just popping the frame on the screen and then moving on. All the completed objects are just loaded and fired onto the screen in order to simulate that drawing of the girders that happens from left to right or top to bottom, however you want to say it. It draws the first 3 girders in the first frame and then the rest of them in the second frame as a way to emulate the way a CRT works.
Gotcha.
And so they noticed that instead of all of the girders being there and being drawn from left to right in the first frame, only 3 of them were there in the first frame, and then the rest of them were there in the second frame.
And that's where the red flags came from.
And that's where the red flag comes from, because it is being drawn on the screen in a progressive manner, similar to how MAME would do it, not in an interlaced manner, similar to how an arcade cabinet would do it.
I gotta say,
Gotcha.
beautiful explanation, Austin.
Yeah.
I cannot believe you knew that off the top of your head.
Yeah, I'm a smart guy.
And
It's a complicated show.
both you and I clearly are experts in that, but I know we wanted to explain it to Randy over
Of
here,
course.
Who clearly had no idea.
I don't know nothing.
Absolutely nothing. No, that is a very good explanation of exactly.
And I that is the basics of how frames are drawn. It might be a little bit different as to exactly how they figured this out. They are smarter than me, I will say that.
Yeah.
So if I got any of that wrong, I apologize. And I please correct me, because I would like to learn more, but I'm not that smart.
that is where you get to like some of the intricacies of like Wolf MAME and like how it handles that. Like,
Yeah.
that is something that is like particular to the MAME version itself, right? So like the Wolf MAME is designed to be more accurate to the arcade cabinet than it would like what we saw, right? Yeah. So, long story short, though.
Ask me more Tetris related questions. I can feel smart again.
Yeah, no problem. I'll chalk this script full of them. No problem.
You already got like 4 hours of Tetris.
I think it was more than that.
You already got like 8 hours of Tetris.
That's right. Yeah.
20 hours of Tetris.
You're banned. If you bring up Tetris again, I'm getting a new host. I'm getting a new co-host. Okay? You're on.
We'll have Fuse.
Yeah.
A
We'll take
recap.
Randy's
Will.
dog.
He could just bark. He won't talk about Tetris.
Yeah. He knows his role.
Yeah.
Anyway.
He is named after a video game character.
After all this stuff comes out, not everyone out there actually turns against Billy. In fact, there are 2 people who actually volunteer to help him prove his case.
Hey, all right. So he had some.
Yeah, he had a lot of supporters.
Okay.
These 2 individuals in particular, one was named Steve Kleizeth, and the other was Carlos Pinheiro.
Okay.
So,
Because he had such a reputation post that documentary for being a heel that like I didn't think
people who know him
yeah
say that
personally,
like you know, outside of the limelight and the videos and stuff like that, he's just a down to earth dude. He's just
And
a
also-
great
that's
man.
right. We can't speak on that.
And
that,
also
like,
a lot of
knowing
his
him and-
friends can verify that
He's actually
there
fucking
there
good.
may be some fuckery, but he
Yeah.
is good at Pac-Man and he is good at
Yeah,
Donkey Kong.
that's inarguable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Steve, a world record holder of Mario Brothers and professional drummer, had known
Hey.
Billy and his longtime friend Robert Childs for years when the dispute first erupted.
You know who he drum with?
No,
I'm going to look it up.
look it up, man. He worked with them to.
Also, I will
Jamie, pull up Steve.
Pull that up.
pull up that clip.
Pull up that clip.
Also, I will say that it in Billy's defense as well, a lot of the like events and conferences where he gets to meet fans, he's very like
Yeah.
like welcoming
Hey,
to
yeah, what's going on?
yeah.
So he
He's
worked
willing
with,
to sign stuff and take pictures and all that.
he actually worked with both Billy and Robert to organize a regular event called the Retro Arcade Night, where they would charge a single flat rate admission to Robert Child's arcade for a free play night. So you wouldn't have to put in quarters. Pay $20.
Hey, right on.
Play for 4 hours straight, whatever.
Good shit.
Carlos, on the other hand, had no idea who the fuck Billy Mitchell was. He had met Robert Childs in 2015 when he sold him his old collection of arcade boards. Afterwards, he added Childs on Facebook, but didn't really keep in touch beyond that. Eventually, in early 2018, Childs made a Facebook post asking for verification that a direct feed setup that he had used for the King of Kong tape could have been used to record footage from an arcade machine, right? He's basically saying, like, hey, can someone out there help verify and prove that, like, this footage that we used, like, actually came from an arcade machine? And Pinheiro had actually worked for Sega for years on arcade cabinets.
Oh, that's right from the source.
Yeah. And he apparently he felt compelled to respond, letting Childs know exactly what he had described was indeed correct.
All right, real quick. He is a punk drummer
Uh-huh.
for the bands Pull, which I've never heard of, Strong Arm, Shy Halud, and Further Seems Forever. The most I could pull up is Further Seems Forever broke up and led to the formation of Dashboard Confessional. So
Wow.
they're from Florida.
There you go.
There you go.
They're also Christian.
Well, and Shy Halud is named after the worm from Dune.
Oh
Okay,
my
I
God,
was
that's
like,
cool.
why the fuck does it sound so familiar?
Yeah.
Well, at this point,
Uh,
Steve saw the post and reached out to see if Pinheiro might be willing to help conduct tests on Mitchell's behalf, essentially to prove an easy explanation for the three girder pattern. Pinheiro agreed, and the two got to work. They provided all the original equipment, recording devices, and arcade boards. By they, I mean Mitchell and Robert Childs. Pinheiro served as the technical lead, and Steve Kleizeth helped wherever he could. Both have stated that Billy never once asked them to lie. And when Billy was asked if he wanted them to stop investigating, Billy told them to report exactly what they found and what they saw, so that's what they did.
okay.
Steve posted the report to the Twin Galaxies dispute thread on April 9th, 2018, stating the game tapes were not generated from a genuine Nintendo Donkey Kong PCB. Almost immediately after, Steve reported that Billy had actually cut all communication with him. However, according to Pinheiro, he and Billy are still on pretty good terms. Yeah.
Okay.
At this point, Twin Galaxies was under new ownership after Walter Day sold the business in the mid-2000s.
Yeah, did we mention that last week?
Yeah, it changed hands roughly like 3 or 4 times
Yeah, I knew.
before being under the current leadership of Jace Hall.
Okay.
Oh,
We did. Okay.
Yeah. Jace
No,
Hall,
you're right.
by the way, is the owner of Echo Fox, an apparent lover of classic video games.
Also,
Hmm.
former Hot Button character, because he used to have an internet show in the early days of the internet called The Jace Hall Show, and that was where the first reported footage of Duke Nukem Forever came from as well.
That is an interesting tidbit. I had no idea.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Was that when it was on like the Quake 2 engine, I guess? Was it the initial like
Man. So all this stuff comes out. They do this investigation. Steve posts his report to Twin Galaxies, and the decision to remove Billy's records came down 3 days later. Twin Galaxies ruled
quick turnaround.
on April 12th, 2018, that both the King of Kong and Mortgage Broker scores as depicted on the tapes were not on genuine arcade hardware, essentially.
Yeah.
Because of the policy that states intentional efforts to mislead Twin Galaxies will result in a lifetime ban, all of Billy's scores were removed, not just Donkey Kong. And because of this, the organization no longer considers him to be the first person to achieve the perfect game of Pac-Man either.
Man, that's really taken a lot away from
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
away from you. Like they're not fucking around.
No.
It's like at this point they're also just like, we're gonna erase your legacy. Like,
And that's the main critique that I think that Billy Mitchell has, because in the year that followed, Billy Mitchell has routinely stated in interviews, videos, and appearances that he was collecting evidence that would exonerate him, right?
yeah.
And as early as April of 2019, Billy actually filed a defamation lawsuit
First of many. I
Yeah,
believe.
yeah. He only followed it to fit within California's statute of limitations for defamation cases, which would have run out a year after they've removed the records. So he launched a libel case against Twin Galaxies and Guinness, seeking a total of about $13 million in damages.
Okay. And this is when he kind of also became a bit of a, like...
Much more contentious figure.
Yes, exactly.
He
I was
went
trying to think
from
of a way of how to
movie
word it.
villain to internet villain.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's a good way of putting it
Mhm.
as well. Which you said also, like, where he grew up and his age, this was kind of how you would react to something like that.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. Because he's also...
People
he
forget.
was running he had another life of stuff
Yes,
that he was
yeah.
managing.
Like
and
like
figuring
people
out, like,
people think that like his life before the King of Kong. Like I can't imagine he made. He obviously did appearances after the King of Kong based off its success.
yeah.
But prior to that, he just played Donkey Kong because he loved it.
Yeah.
You know, and he turned his family business, their hot sauce line, like he grew it. Like he was pretty successful in life. Like if you ask me, his life was probably more defined by non-Donkey Kong things than it was Donkey Kong until recently, when obviously like people have kind of taken it and
Created their own...
they really
image
just
of who he is.
exacerbated the entire thing from both sides, like him, like he as well.
Hey, this is
and-
the age of reactions.
It is.
That's-
It is. Eventually,
And
to-
a lot of the reporting around this time was very sensational. It
yes,
was, like,
very
yeah.
clickbaity.
Yeah, and there was an angle to all of it. Like, hell, it
and they're-
worked on me. Like, it just, like...
I don't think that they gave him a fair shake because everyone knew him as the villain from the King of Kong.
Of course, it already
So it
painted
makes
a
it
perspective
easier
of-
to hate the villain and say this guy's a piece of shit without actually trying to see the other's perspective.
Yeah.
Also, I mean, in a similar way to how the documentary was trying to present an arc and needed a villain, if you got a
Yeah.
trending story that goes viral, you need a villain.
It's true.
You need a reason for people to click on it, and hate is the easiest emotion to exploit, I should say.
Hate clicking.
Yep.
So, with all this in mind, fast forward to September of 2019, this culminated in a 156-page evidence package that was sent by the law firm operating on behalf of Billy Mitchell, along with a demand letter to both Twin Galaxies owner Jace Hall and Guinness threatening legal action unless his scores were reinstated. He also wanted Guinness to apologize, specifically because
Like, publicly,
in their,
just like...
either to him privately or publicly.
Okay.
Specifically, I believe in their 2019 edition of Guinness Book of World Records, there was a piece in the video game portion where it said something like the records that no longer were, the records that never were, and it specifically has a picture of him and Todd Rogers together.
Yeah, I
saying
mean,
that,
he had history with that.
yeah,
You know, with, like, part of them kind of forming their brand was...
yeah.
He was a key factor in that.
And let me be clear here. I read all 156 pages of this evidence package. And to be
That's why we
honest,
love to have you.
it means absolutely nothing. It was a waste of fucking time.
Really?
Yes. To begin, like, it's so rife with spelling errors. It's jam-packed with a lot of witness testimony under penalty of perjury under the laws of the state of California and
Jesus.
Florida, and it's signed and dated. Most of the pages are scanned documents or screen grabs that were pressed into an Adobe file. And I know this because some of the typing still has the red and blue autocorrect lines underneath
Oh
them
my
from Word.
God.
Some of the images even have dots around the corner, like it was pasted into Word or PowerPoint. Like you could see, like
Yeah.
change the
Yeah,
image
when
type.
you insert...
Yeah.
Yep.
It clearly runs into the slippery slope fallacy, where he uses one thing to justify the next. He cites screenshots of YouTube comments that claims they only arose after Guinness defamed his name in their record books. And the few pieces that looked well put together were from his key witnesses. However, they were brought in under the auspices of becoming expert witnesses. And I'm sorry, but being really good at Donkey Kong on arcade doesn't make you an expert on how arcade board programming works versus MAME.
Oh, no, not at all. I mean, it can, but it's not...
You're
You can
really good at
you can
Rock
be-
Band 3, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Now,
I know exactly how it's built, and I could make it myself.
Now, can you tell me the differences between, we'll say, an illegal drum set used on Rock Band 3 versus an authentic drum set?
Well, that's a tough example because they use MIDI, so you can kind of use adapters to connect whatever you want to it.
So what you're telling me is no.
I forgot the question. What
No,
was
I gotcha. No. Like, luckily for everyone here, the actual statement from his law office was pretty concise, and it got to the point. Guinness ended up caving and restored his historical score claims before it got to an actual court.
Can I insert something here? Because I actually watched a video about this not too long ago.
What's up?
Yeah.
I was watching a video of H-Bomber guy talking to a lawyer. There's like a YouTube lawyer guy that like has a podcast. And
The video game lawyer?
Yeah.
Yes.
No, not the video game lawyer. That's like Law Eagle or something is the channel name.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And he was talking about defamation lawsuits specifically. Because if you were a YouTuber who is making fun of political figures or public figures, celebrities, and you were to get sued for defamation, what actually constitutes defamation?
Right, because he's very particular in a lot of his videos about like libel, where it's just like you have to. It's a lot of just based around the wording of how you phrase things can make all the difference, but.
Yes. And I found out a couple of very interesting facts, which is that you have to prove malicious intent. Which, like, I don't feel like Billy, like, as much as we say a lot of these stories are framing him, like, he should have technically, I guess, sued the people who were writing about it, not Guinness themselves. Because Guinness had no malicious intent.
No, but they were broadcasting it, and that's what made them a target for him.
And you also have to prove that the person making the claims, the libelous or defamatory claims, is doing so with the knowledge that they are wrong. Because it's not that's the thing. It's not defamation if it's a mistake. If you yourself believe that it is the truth.
Yes.
Which is a huge problem now because we have a lot of people spreading misinformation around the internet.
Yeah.
But it's very hard to prove that somebody knew that they were misinforming people. And acted maliciously.
Maliciously, yeah.
Also...
Which is why you never see Keemstar ever apologize.
Exactly. Third interesting fact, celebrities have a much harder time proving libel or defamation.
Yes.
Well, yeah, especially when you have things like parody and satire.
Exactly.
And like all
the famous case is I forget the person, so forgive me for that. You can look it up. But there was a famous figure who Hustler posted a fake interview with where he described in vivid detail how he lost his virginity. And he sued Hustler for libel and lost because the story was so ridiculous nobody would ever believe it. Also,
so then they just said it was like entertainment, not
also
speaking as
Tucker
true.
Carlson and Fox News have won a lot of
that way
specific lawsuits like this by claiming, and this is an internet fact that people spread around a lot, by claiming that Tucker Carlson's show is so ridiculous that nobody would take it seriously.
Well, I thought that was the Alex Jones defense as well.
It is, yeah. It's the same for Alex Jones.
It's just like, he's an actor.
It's a character. Yeah, it's not a person. He's not making libelous claims because it's a script and
but
it's
it doesn't
fiction.
matter that people are taking it.
But people are taking it seriously.
Yeah.
But the question then becomes like, Billy is a celebrity, and Billy is a celebrity because of King of Kong.
Yeah.
And so, like, if he's going to sue Guinness for defamation, it becomes harder to prove because why didn't he sue the directors of King of Kong for defamation for framing him in such a bad light, right?
Interesting.
Like,
I know he wasn't
you got to deal with legal precedent and all that as well. Sorry, that was a bit of a tangent.
No,
but
that's really good.
Yeah.
I can only imagine that to be in the King of Kong, he probably signed waivers. Like waiving his
of
right
course,
to
there's a
sue
lot,
them.
but
at the same time, I imagine he probably still makes money off of it.
Yeah,
that is true. But again, though, I'm sure he wasn't a part of that editing process.
No,
did not know what the framing of all of his scenes were going to be.
Yeah.
When structured into what it was.
Yeah,
but
so yeah, Billy Mitchell. He files this lawsuit against Twin Galaxies and Guinness. Guinness kind of rescinds or like, fuck it, dude. All right. have your title back, whatever.
Yeah.
And this leads us to May of 2020, where Twin Galaxies files an anti-slap motion in which the LA County Court judge actually denied. And anti-slap laws are designed to provide
what is that?
It's an early dismissal of meritless lawsuits filed in response to your ability to exercise your First Amendment rights. So it's like anti-slap is like, oh, I make a joke at your behest, you immediately sue me.
Right.
I file an anti-slap.
And then, this is a waste of time.
Okay, so I had to look it up, but SLAP is an acronym, SLAPP.
Yes.
Stands for Strategic Lawsuit Against Public Participation. And basically the reason SLAP exists is because a lot of very rich people, Scientology, will just, if they have a bunch of money and a bunch of lawyers, will just levy lawsuits against people. Because in order to fight a lawsuit, you have to have money.
You have to spend money.
Of course.
You have to spend money, even if it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
So
SLAP doesn't matter how right you might be.
SLAP is in place to basically be like, I hired a lawyer, but we're filing a SLAP lawsuit against you to basically be like, you're bullying me, stop. I don't want to pay a bunch of money to fight this in court.
Yep.
Essentially.
Okay.
So
it's like a quicker ruling to get out of court when you're just basically being bullied. Yeah.
This LA County judge, Judge Gregory Alarcon, Judge Greg, he shot it down and held that Mitchell is a public figure and the matter at hand is a controversy of public interest to the gaming community. In order to prevail, Mitchell must first prove that Twin Galaxies statements were false and that the record keeper acted with actual malice when making its claims.
Yep.
Yeah.
There you go.
The ruling purposely does not examine the evidence or factual claims presented by the parties, but acknowledged that Twin Galaxies seems to be confident in its statements and that it conducted a lengthy investigation of the dispute. The judge also acknowledged that Twin Galaxies could have consulted Nintendo for verification of his performance, which it failed to do so after Mitchell's request. The judge also seemed concerned about Twin Galaxies' refusal to interview eyewitnesses put forth by Mitchell, and a trial date was set for December 4th, 2020. Now, Twin Galaxies...
We're getting real current here.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Twin Galaxies' new counterclaim goes much further to attack Billy Mitchell than their previous statements, saying that old Twin Galaxies, referring to Walter Day and Billy Mitchell, relied on good faith analysis of the tapes that Twin Galaxies no longer recognizes as legitimate. They go further to say that they had focused on the technical anomalies in the video itself that led to the choice to strike the scores from the record, that Mitchell lacked the requisite natural skill or ability to be the greatest video game player of all time, and accuses old Twin Galaxies of planning to return Billy Mitchell's prestige with fraudulent scores. Yeah. Both Billy Mitchell and Walter Day, this is a quote, both Billy Mitchell and Walter Day knew that these scores were fake, but is still included on the Twin Galaxies score database because of their need for self-aggrandizing, their avarice, and their desire to create perceived value for the database so that they could one day sell Twin Galaxies and its score database and take the money for themselves.
Wow,
That's a theory. It goes further to
pretty weighty
accusation. Yeah.
Yeah.
It goes further to explain that they purposely suppressed scores from other competitors and altered rules to secure Mitchell's position atop the scoreboards.
All right, that's little.
This
tinfoil hat
is where it becomes a legal matter. Because of the alleged manipulation and lying about their old scores, the pair, Walter Day and Billy Mitchell, represented and warranted in the purchase agreement that the Twin Galaxies score database does not contain any untrue, misleading, or false statements of fact. So these alleged lies led to a lost value of assets purchased from old Twin Galaxies, particularly a loss of value in the scores database because of the association of fraudulent scores, thereby diminishing its value without the new owner's knowledge. What does this all mean? Right? Well, we'll get there. This is even further compounded by accusations that Mitchell and Day mismanaged the funds of Twin Galaxies by treating the assets of the corporation as their own by paying personal debts with corporation funds. Apparently, the pair commingled their own funds, with those of the corporations, made promises of stock offering that it never intended to keep, and stifled creditors on multiple debts.
Jeez.
The alleged improprieties also extend to a previous 2008 sale of Twin Galaxies to Peter Bouvier.
For how much?
Probably Bouvier.
Bouvier. According to...
That Marge Simpson's...
Yeah,
like,
her maiden, yeah. So after selling to Mr. Bouvier, the $200,000 sale was apparently reversed when Mitchell and Day took control of the Twin Galaxies score database from Peter by exercising undue influence over him while he was incapacitated with Alzheimer's disease. So what started as a gimme back my title has now become a commingling of funds and assets, which can open a person up to civil liabilities and, in cases of alleged fraud or embezzlement, criminal charges. So
this is escalated.
Yes. So if those stick, Twin Galaxies could take Billy's house, or even worse, making him hang up his #1 most American suit, the red, white, and blue with the American flag tie, for the #2 most American suit, an orange jumpsuit.
It's a good joke.
So
just don't take the sauce away.
No, absolutely not. So, like, he basically files this lawsuit against Twin Galaxies, and they're like, "Look, dude, just give it up." And he's like, "No." So he keeps going forward with it, and Twin Galaxies,
he's sticking it to his...
Yeah, Twin Galaxies holds back. They say, like, "Look, we're trying to settle this, etc." Then it finally goes to court, and they're like, "We're just gonna level this."
Yeah.
Like, I mean, Twin Galaxies, the way that I see it, it's like they're not necessarily wrong, like, in the sense of, like, they played fast and loose back in the day and tried to legitimize it during the sale.
There wasn't really a blueprint also to how, like...
Yeah, to how it was done, right? And all of this stuff with Twin Galaxies, this isn't actually Billy's first rodeo.
Say a solid blueprint, not like... But...
Like, this isn't Billy's first rodeo with the county courts.
No.
So, back in May of 2020, Billy issued a letter of intent to sue a YouTuber for $1 million over claims that he made a video back in 2018.
Yeah, so we were just discussing before the show how...
And what is important to note here is that the very same YouTuber was the same person who brought to the mainstream attention analysis by OmniGamer and compared it against Todd Rogers' time, which set in the motions for this entire claim to begin. Right? So the same YouTuber that took down Todd Rogers and saw the success of that moved on to Billy Mitchell. And after receiving generally positive feedback from his takedown from Rogers, he then issued this one against Mitchell. And while Billy was overly cautious about properly responding to the allegations publicly, this person took it upon themselves to get the answer straight from Mitchell himself. He traveled to 2 events, which Mitchell was personally at, where he recorded footage of him meeting Billy Mitchell. However, I have not seen any recorded footage from the events themselves, but I know one of them he actually dressed up like Billy Mitchell.
Yeah.
And shortly after receiving a letter from Billy Mitchell's attorneys, like, obviously this YouTuber, like, he kind of started to go in a downhill spiral. That's pretty much as far as I wrote as it relates to this YouTuber. I'm not giving the name out because
it's a sensitive topic.
It is. Like, a lot has happened since all this started, especially for this said individual. And recently this YouTuber has passed away, and it doesn't feel right, like, putting their business on display for everyone, because as it pertains to Billy Mitchell, it kind of ends there.
Yeah.
You know? But there was another YouTuber who sued.
They become separate discussions.
Yes, yeah. Separate topics altogether. But there was another YouTuber that he did sue, that I will name. His name is Carl Jobst. He's an Australian YouTuber.
Okay. Back to Australia, huh?
Oh, there it is. I could hear it now. Waltz and Matilda underneath. So Billy has also issued legal threats against speedrunner and YouTuber Carl Jobst over his statements in the video, "Guinness World Records should stay out of gaming." The 2 threats sent to Carl on July 30th of 2020 were issued from an Australian law firm where he takes residence. And the settlement they offered included deleting the YouTube video, a written note that he would never repeat any of the allegations contained in the video about Billy Mitchell. They were our client or anything similar.
Okay.
A written apology to Billy Mitchell in terms which are satisfactory to both the law firm and Billy.
Yeah.
Payment of Billy's costs, which they estimate to be in order of about $1,500 American USD,
Not a
and
lot.
payment of compensatory damages in the sum of $150,000.
Okay, that's
So
It
Carl
jumped up in
has
price
vowed
here.
to fight this case all the way to the end, if need be, and highlights his hypocrisies and errors in like his evidence package. So since then, like what has really been going on? Obviously, Carl Jobst has followed up with this, has made another video about it very, very recently. Billy
yeah?
Mitchell kind of put out another statement about it. In the video, if you look at it objectively and don't take sides, Carl kind of puts a lot of the blame of like, hey, because you sued this young kid, right? Like it put undue stress upon his life, which ultimately culminated in
His death.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
It goes without saying
that is just not fair, in my opinion. That is just not fair to kind of levy against it. And Billy Mitchell put out this response video that was like, hey,
I don't disagree.
here's the settlement that I actually reached with this YouTuber. He did not pay me any money. He deleted the videos. Like, in fact, he was like pretty much representing false information out to people because
there's other factors
yeah.
at play here, is what you're saying, and that's not.
Yes, yeah.
That
yeah,
should
yeah.
not come down upon
him.
Yeah.
So, yeah, like for Billy Mitchell's future and like how bad this court with Twin Galaxies is looking, like I have a theory about how I think it all went down, right?
Okay.
Mitchell is a good Donkey Kong player.
Yeah.
He's exceptional, right? At some point in time, he was probably the best in the world. However, years have passed, and it wasn't until he was given the opportunity to be in the King of Kong that he realized he probably still loves the limelight. Because you got to remember, in the 80s, he was traveling around with Walter Day. He went to like conventions, stuff like that. Like he was a celebrity. He was out there, yeah. In some form or another, at least in a niche hobby. And
See, I'm glad that you mentioned that, because gaming is not what it is.
Yeah.
It's not what it was back then.
Yes.
So now there are way more people.
But he still falls into a niche category. He's a classic or retro video game player,
and
which
he will
has
always
a community.
Have that. Yeah.
They do, and it's not speedrunners. Like, I would kill to go to a pinball tournament because the people playing there.
Oh,
they're like, oh, I'm a foreman.
Yeah.
Like they have their lives. It's like on the side I compete on pinball.
Yeah.
Like it's still a niche hobby.
So it's just for the passion of the craft. It's not.
It's not for like anything like, oh, I'm gonna break a speed run on like the new Digimon game.
Yeah, you can't sell it. They're just
and I think all the scores he posted are legitimate scores he got himself without cheating as well.
Mm-hmm.
It's also like I think the record keeping at Twin Galaxies was super shoddy at best. And while Walter Day may have been a little bit too much of an optimist and a very nice guy, but he didn't realize that like people would cheat the system, right?
Yeah.
Like, and through that optimism and being a nice guy, he eventually parlayed his entire life success into a relationship with Guinness, legitimizing it, and it both validated his role in gaming, but it also left it open to be manipulated. And I think it's no surprise that everyone that became part of his inner circle at some point held a world record from Guinness.
Mm-hmm.
I think they even parlayed their relationship with his credentials to basically manipulate the system for like their own good. And I'm not saying all the stuff they did was as egregious as like Todd Rogers.
Sure. Yeah.
But by either suppressing the competition or in Billy's case, creating meme tapes, right? I think he produced that footage originally as a story piece for the movie, right? To have it be Billy wins at the end, but he really just played on a meme cabinet, probably for the ease of simplicity.
Yeah, that's what I was saying earlier.
They're like, hey, Billy, we're thinking for this story arc, if you could send us a tape of you breaking 1 million, because you got to remember, he knew he could do it. It was just a matter of like when he did it.
Yeah.
So he just did it.
Imagine you accomplishing something that's very difficult, but that you like, and someone's like, hey, recreate this again. It's
yes.
Like, you'd still have to prepare yourself physically and mentally and practice to be able to,
So I think he filmed
on it.
I think he filmed it.
At
it
request.
was used on meme. Yeah, on request. Yeah. And then months down the road, when everyone forgot about it, I don't know if he tried to pass it off as legitimate or people were just like, yo, Billy, like, remember that record from the King of Kong? You want us to enter that in? One way or another, I don't think he thought that this would be as contentious as it would, right? Like, he thought it'd just be like, hey, I did get this 1,000,000-point score, right? Okay, it's on MAME, whatever. And then they enter it. And I think without people's technical understanding of how authentic cabinets load and the work of like OmniGamer to like decompiling Dragster, all this would have just been swept under the rug. And if the primary referees for validating scores were basically all friends with each other and personally motivated to make fraudulent scores, then yeah, this shit's gonna happen.
Yeah.
And I also think that Billy going to court is a fucking death sentence. Like what started as a defamation lawsuit to get his story out has really become a potential like civil damages and even criminal charges.
I mean, he's going to be fighting for his reputation pretty much forever.
I think Twin Galaxies did take the word of the public a little too seriously when handling the case. However, I also think that they have every right and every power to really do so.
Yeah, agreed.
They created a verification process by which the community basically chooses what cases get reviewed, and Billy's got enough support. So they reviewed it to the best of their ability, and they made the call. I think everyone has a gripe here. It's like the new owner of Twin Galaxies because his brand value is basically plummeting by the fucking day.
Oh, yeah.
And the entire process has kind of been fast and loose for the past 30 fucking years, and now they're finally saying you need better validation to this, and Billy got upset. And it's not like Billy doesn't have a fallback either, because he's got his family fucking business, which is already super successful.
Yeah.
He could literally just retire, but instead he wants to like fight
For his name
and his sake, and like in my opinion, he's approaching it in the incorrect way. Like he's kind of like it's.
I mean, we were talking about this a bit like beforehand, and you were saying like there's some people aren't able to kind of let that stuff go and ignore it, even if it in the long run will probably benefit them in a better way.
Yeah,
but
he's handling it the same way our dads would handle it.
Exactly. It's a very old-fashioned kind of way of,
YouTubers, they like some people they clamor for public attention like this, right? Because any attention is good attention to them, good, bad, or ugly.
But putting yourself out there meant something differently back then as opposed to now.
Did.
It's just like
I don't think he's getting a fair shake. I think that he just needs to either get out of the arena altogether. Stop engaging people on YouTube or calling you a piece of shit. Let them. Who cares?
Yeah.
You know you're good at Donkey Kong. You have the people that are close to you, but like you feel like he feels a need to like defend himself against people who, let's be honest, they got all the time in the world to fucking say what they want.
Exactly. And it's tough because if I was in any position like that and was being misrepresented, it would be difficult to ignore those.
Like, can you imagine, because of a meme tape, right? A meme tape, 30 years of what you've been working at and what you've been passionate about as your hobby is then erased and people think of you as an asshole.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like, can you imagine if you broke the record for, I don't know, some kind of drumming thing on Rock Band 3, right?
I love that you keep pulling this up.
I always say it because like the only thing I can think of. Or even better, let's say like your Tetris scores, right?
Yeah.
Oh, I told you I will find a way to get Tetris back in here,
Right?
right?
Your band.
Let's say
both of you.
Let's say you break the record for like the most Tetris Invictus scores in a row, right? Wins in a row. And then 5 years from now, you upload a fake video of yourself, but it's really just a task playing Tetris Invictus and it wins one time. And you're like, check it out, guys, I'm the best. And then because of that, they invalidate all your previous achievements.
Man, what you're saying makes me never want to participate in this industry ever.
Like, yeah. What are your thoughts, Austin?
I feel like, it's one thing to, like, argue the point and even to get tussled up with, like, YouTubers and stuff, right? But that is a very, like, old school faith in the justice system way to look at it. Like, I know what I did, and now the courts justice will be served in the end, right? And it's like, maybe against a YouTuber, sure. But you're suing a corporation now. And that's not how that shit works.
No.
You know, even someone as small as Twin Galaxies now, they have the money and the pull to hire the lawyers who could, like, pour over some fucking documents and be like, hey, this contract you signed when you sold Twin Galaxies was fucking bullshit, and now we're coming after everything. Like, if you just left well enough alone, like you could have just, skated by on your hot sauce and wing business or whatever, but fuck, we're taking that now too,
Yeah.
You're 100% right. And like,
Yeah.
And the fact that, like, once the cat's out of the bag, like, he agreed to
Can't put the toothpaste back in the tube.
Exactly. Well, once he agreed to do King of Kong, he can come out all he wants and say, like, hey, they portrayed me as the villain. And I think people were a little bit on his side in that because, like I said, and we'll get to it in our
I'm
commentary.
really looking forward to this viewing, by the way.
But, like, it's very obvious that he is framed as the villain. And, like, reality TV is a thing. I think people are well aware that clever editing is a thing.
They are now. There was a time where people thought Jerry Springer was real. I think we're a bit wiser.
It's not.
Well, that's what I'm saying, though. I think people are aware now.
Yeah, looking back at gotcha.
Yeah.
That, like, I think even people who watch shit like The Bachelor and stuff.
Oh,
like,
they're completely.
It's entertainment. I know it's bullshit.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Or like I watch Chopped. I know when there's 10 seconds left and the people are throwing parsley.
My mom has participated in those types of shows.
When people are throwing parsley on the plate, there's not actually 10 seconds left. There are people
They're doing that with 5 minutes left, and they get the
Yeah.
reaction shots of people's faces.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But like,
100%.
I think his most recent, like, Randy's right when it's like people are calling him into question. He's just like, that won't stand. I am good at Donkey Kong. It's like, how I think I would have responded as Billy?
How?
I think I would have got, and this would cost money and stuff, but like, I would have got another board verified by somebody at Nintendo. I would have gotten an actual Donkey Kong arcade cabinet.
It's tough after that guy is
Sure.
no longer there.
Verified it, and I would have beat 1,000,000 points again.
Yeah.
And just been
Yeah.
like, and recorded it in like, and people are always going to call out and say you're still a cheater.
Yeah,
But
I
he
mean, there's a
should've-
certain percentage of folks you're never gonna be able to silence.
Yeah, but at the end, I would
convince.
have just been like, look, I understand. The main thing was
I mean, that's also difficult.
the main thing was a mistake, and it was part of the movie.
Yep.
And they just wanted me to get this
Yeah.
tape of me playing 1,000,000 for their story. I'm good at Donkey Kong. I can still do it. Congrats to the new world record holder.
Yeah.
And all that. But like,
I mean, that's the thing. Though. It's no easy feat to be like, hey, do it again.
Yeah.
For us.
Sure,
Like,
but I think he could do it given enough attempts.
I think he could too. He's not
but like
that old or out of practice or anything.
to
but
just
still.
do that and just be like, look, I can still do it.
Riding a bike, jump in a barrel.
Yeah.
Same thing, right? Never forget.
And just been like, congrats to whoever's in Guinness. I don't need to be in Guinness, but I can still do it. So
Right, but to some people that
you're never gonna please everybody.
no, you're not. But I also I more meant like with him. I think his legacy is really is a part of
Yeah,
his
it's
identity.
just-
That's important to him.
It is, but it's just a misunderstanding of how legacy works in the days of the internet.
Yes.
Very true.
Because you sue somebody like this,
That doesn't.
that's
look
your
good.
fucway legacy now.
Yeah.
Like
Because
no
of the
one
way
is,
clickbait and shit works.
Like-
Yes.
nobody. If you think about it too, it's not like Billy Mitchell like made millions off King of Kong either. He's just a
No.
guy.
Yeah.
Like, so they're trying to pit it as like, oh, this like big evil guy is suing this small YouTuber, and it's like,
Carl Jost probably has way more money than Billy Mitchell does.
yeah,
Yeah.
Right, but I know what you're saying. Like the playing field is a lot more equal than I think the reporting would imply.
yes,
Like
they think he has like a closet of lawyers that are ready to come out and attack anybody.
I
but,
think
like,
that is a direct result of being on the silver screen in that movie.
Yeah, sure.
Like
Yeah.
for sure. Well, I like and we've already, like we've said that a bunch, but I just more meant like it's tough to really cement down like when you're in that kind of picture, it's like you're being seen as like
yeah,
some sort of like royalty in the arcade gaming
Or-
space, like, like
The other way to do it is to just become that character.
really lean into
Just
it,
release
like
like a wrestling.
style.
You just release like a wrestling promo and be like, "Yeah, I fucking cheated, and I'll do it again," and then sell like Billy
Dirty
Mitchell
Dan.
suck shirts or something. Like that's
Oh
how
my
I
God.
would do it.
Oh my God,
honestly.
that's brilliant.
That's how I would do it if
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
him.
I mean, we
What's
don't know
wait.
that this isn't part of his plan. There's some
Yeah.
like Andy Kaufman level of
Yeah.
that we're just
You're not,
years
you're not
away from
rescuing
seeing the
Princess
end of.
Peach and Donkey Kong, right? What's her name? You're rescuing Pauline,
Yeah.
right?
The mayor of New Donk City, sir.
Yes, you're right. She moved on to bigger and better things from being caged.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude. Can you imagine Billy
Mario
Mitchell
doesn't deserve her.
cutting a promo? I can't believe what Donkey Kong did to Pauline. I'm gonna take him down in the court of law. The cream will rise to the top.
Dude, I'm so excited to watch this movie now.
Yeah, put a fucking game on Steam where it's Billy Mitchell and you're playing as a
Oh, that would be
Mario
good.
and trying to save like I don't know.
He would definitely be on the roster, like as a selectable character in our crossover fighting game of people in the gaming.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that
Video
we-
game personalities
yeah,
and
that
developers.
Exactly, that we were joking about earlier.
Yeah. Like, there's also other lawsuits I didn't talk about. Like, obviously, he's been depicted in other TV shows as well, and the movie Pixels.
Yeah.
Like, when did Pixels come out?
2015?
So, like,
Yeah.
none of this stuff was
Somewhere
even going
around
on yet, and people were already poking at him.
Oh yeah, and I'm sure that stupid ass movie didn't help either. Like, and that
Neither
like,
did is it the regular show?
oh yes, oh my God, and didn't he might have pursued that as well.
Yeah.
I think he
He,
did.
he tried to. It got dismissed.
Yes, there was oh shit, hold on.
Like, yeah, there's an episode where they want to go play an arcade,
Oh my God.
and then there's like a Billy Mitchell type character. Like, where did he get that persona from if it wasn't from the King of Kong? Right?
Yeah.
Because all this stuff with like
Garrett Bobby Ferguson,
There you
and he
go.
looks just like him, essentially. Like
yeah, like so all this stuff came out beforehand, before all these allegations came out. So it was kind of loaded. It was kind of loaded
And
against him.
I like that show, but that was in retrospect pretty mean spirited. Like,
Yeah,
because of course he's just a cheater at arcade game. Like that's forever what
people
we'll think.
will
Like,
think. Like,
Man.
yeah. See, I told you I couldn't wait to come into this episode because, like, when you actually think about it,
I think this is going to enlighten a lot of people. It's definitely like the most I've ever understood of the situation.
yeah. Like, don't get me wrong, both sides were at fault here. There's definitely some shitty
Yeah,
stuff
yeah,
that
yeah.
he did as well. And
We're
his
also
people
not saying
did.
he's a hero. We're just
No,
saying that
definitely not. He definitely mismanaged a few things.
there's
on
more to
his
the
side.
story.
Like how they determined what the perfect Pac-Man. I see you eyeing that chip up there with some Ricky's Louisiana famous hot sauce. You wanna?
Put it down. It's
Alright.
okay.
If you wanna take another bite, we can't blame you. Like, yeah, the way Twin Galaxies was set up was obviously in his favor. The way that they determined the perfect Pac-Man score, like it just seemed kind of like an old boys club type thing. Like
Sure.
if you were
Yeah.
in the inner circle, you were in. That's not necessarily right. if
It
you're
does
trying to
give off
do-
that vibe, though. There's a bit of a gatekeeping aspect. to
Yes.
it.
Yeah, and to be honest, I don't think he actually plans, like, when he sues people, he's just trying to get their YouTube videos down. Like,
Some Beyonce get
But-
that off the internet, or what did you?
The Streisand.
The Streisand effect.
yeah, yeah.
The Beyonce did do that as well.
And I mean, they purposely make sure that they don't include any footage of him or anything that he does, so they can't get copyright striked.
Yeah.
Like, the people who are making these videos about him are doing it for a very specific purpose, and that's because anger incites people.
Yeah.
Right? More clicks, more exposure videos and exposés. about
It
taking
shapes
people down.
perception, and
It does.
It feels just more. Yeah.
And like he's entering an arena that he just cannot compete in because what he knows is classic arcade. He doesn't know modern video day editing and like
We can barely keep up with that shit.
Yeah.
That's what you're saying. Like he's just a dude.
he's
like,
just a dude.
yeah, like he didn't sign up to like be able to deconstruct all internet etiquette into the most thoughtful fucking like like it's
I think the best way to
campaign,
put this, and we'll end on this, when the example you say with like Beyonce or Barbara Streisand, I
Yeah.
think the internet forms these villains because it's like Somebody put up a picture of Beyonce where she doesn't look flat, like she doesn't look like one of the most beautiful women in the world for once. And it's like, and she's like suing them to take it off the internet. It's like, dude, fuck off back to your mansion.
Yeah.
You have millions of dollars.
Yeah.
It's the same with Barbara Streisand, right? Where it's like, I want this taken off the internet. It's like, dude, fuck you and go back to your fucking mansion.
Yeah.
But, and then like, there'll be times when like YouTubers will pick on normal people.
Yeah.
And like the internet will side with the normal person. It's like, dude, you're in this case, you're punching down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so like, I think what you're trying to say, Chris, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it's just like a thing of like, people view Billy Mitchell as a celebrity who's made money, like a lot of money off being popular for playing Donkey Kong. And they're viewing the YouTubers who are taking him down as the underdogs, and they view them as punching up at Billy Mitchell, but maybe it's just a dude who owns a restaurant who has a modest family life in Florida, and maybe it's not actually punching up, it's punching down.
Yes.
And so, like, but it's kind of level, and the internet doesn't really know how to handle it when it's level.
Yeah.
It just kind of leads to this, like, baseless drama, like the Keemstar shit that...
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just it's like, oh, that's a great way to fucking put it.
Hold on, there's one more thing I want to say.
Delicious.
Anyway, thanks for listening.
I can't wait to watch the King of Kong too.
He also has some pretty good sauce.
He does
make some good hot sauce.
I'm telling you right now, if Ricky's world famous Louisiana hot sauce, made in America, would like to sponsor Hot Button.
Yeah.
Oh, 100%.
100%.
Billy, if
Let's
you hear
do it.
this, please don't sue us.
I don't think he would if he listened to him.
No.
The whole
And B, if you want us to plug, if you want to pay us to plug Ricky's more, we absolutely will.
Yes.
No
we
question.
take forms
No
in the
question.
currency of Ricky's famous Louisiana hot sauce.
Because your hot sauce, Donkey Kong aside, your hot sauce is absolutely fucking delicious.
Yeah.
And it should be in stores all across America.
Agreed.
I'm gonna make a little sandwich here. Austin, you wanna the little chip? You
made a chip sandwich?
Yeah, with sauce in the middle, man.
Are you gonna chew it while I'm doing plugs?
I'll hold it away from.
Microphone.
I'll move the mic. Hey, do some
God.
plugs. Promote.
Dude, it's so good.
commentary.
It's so good. He can't keep himself away from it.
I still heard
I
that.
still heard it.
Yeah, thanks for listening. We've plugged a lot along the way, but if you want to hear more stories like this and others not like this at all, you can find more episodes at hotbuttoncast.com, including part 1 to this saga. And keep your eye on hotbuttoncast.com in the coming weeks for our commentary on King of Kong, A Fistful of Quarters, the documentary made about Billy Mitchell and Steve Wiebe fighting for the 1,000,000-point score in Donkey Kong. Also subscribe to hear more stories in the future. I don't know exactly what we have coming up, but we got
some stuff.
We got some stuff in the oven, and we got some more movie commentaries coming pretty soon.
And if you haven't, I assume everyone's listened to part 1, but check out our
if this is your first episode, check out part 1
and our series on Night Trap and our history of G4, which is now even the gears have kicked up even like further on that reboot that they're doing. So
yeah, and keep listening because we do a yearly update cast for all.
Yeah, we're gonna have a lot to go back to.
Despite the fact that we took a break, I'm sure this year we're gonna have a lot of updates about G4 and a lot of updates about Billy Mitchell's lawsuit and a lot of updates about maybe not as many about Night Trap, but
now the Control Vision is coming out.
And if you want to hear what topics we're working on and when and what's coming in the pipeline, follow our socials, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at HotButtonCast. And I think that's it. All
right. Thank you, Austin. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you, guys.
I'm going to go eat some more chips.
I know. Now I want to fucking eat some.
Yeah. Cool. Goodbye.
There'll always be the argument that video games are meant to be played for fun. Believe me, some of it's a lot of fun. Video games are meant to be played at home, relaxing, on a couch, amongst friends, and they are, and that's fun. But competitive gaming, when you want to attach your name to a world record, when you want your name written into history, you have to pay the price.